Okay, here we go. I love the gavel. It's my favorite thing every week. Okay, welcome everybody. We're so glad to see all of you here. I can see you better like that. But we are going to go ahead and get started with, first of all, our reverence by Heidi Jo West, and then our flag salute Pledge of Allegiance by Keith Meekum.
Father in heaven, we thank thee for the opportunity to gather here today as community members, board members, and Box Elder administrative leadership team. We're thankful, Heavenly Father, for the students that we serve and the families that help support us in educating their children and providing learning opportunities for them. We're very grateful, Heavenly Father, for the career paths that we've chosen that allow us to be able to help build our communities and educate our students. We're grateful for the opportunities that school board meetings give for us to hear public comment and respond to the voices of our taxpayers. We're grateful for the board members who serve in their different communities and who seek the input of their constituents. We're ask thee, Heavenly Father, to please bless our agenda tonight, that it will be meaningful and useful to the building of our school district. Please help us to keep students forefront in our minds and our decisions, and to always be willing to listen to others and hear their voices. Please help us to be good leaders of the teachers and employees that we serve, and we ask these things in the name of His Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. The audience will please rise. Repeat with me the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, we will move ahead with our recognitions for tonight by board member Stephanie DePhillips.
Thank you. Okay, is the softball coach here? Oh, welcome, yay! So Bear River Softball ended this year in 2025 season with a record of 33 wins and 3 losses. They brought home the 4A state championship and a Region 11 championship. At the end of the softball season, they were ranked number 1 in the state of Utah and 50th in the nation. Several players broke or etched their name in the Utah softball record book. Bear River now leads the state with the most state championships with 12. That is so cool. And this is actually by the coach, and I just loved what you said, so I'm going to quote you. Okay, here it goes. This team was so fun to watch this season. They love and play the game the right way. They show grit, mental toughness, and no challenge was ever too big for them. They were ultimate teammates and put the team before themselves. Most importantly, these girls are incredible young women who live our team motto of above the line daily. And I think that's so fantastic, and they did such a good job. So congratulations, and thank you for all you do. And then is the lacrosse coach here by chance? No? Oh, hello.
He's out of the country.
Oh, so I guess we'll let him pass. And these are some of the stats from about his team, and I was blown away. Actually, I don't know anything about lacrosse. I need to go watch a game, but these sound really cool. So it's 108 goals, which lead the state, 216 assists, which also leads the state, 4 straight state championships, a 57-game winning streak. Wow, that is so cool. 10 all-state selections and 2 academic all-state selections with a 4.0. So what a great team, and they are doing some really amazing things. So good job, lacrosse. And then lastly, we wanted to highlight Christy, and is it Eddington? Edgington, okay. There was no E, so I wasn't sure. Silent G, English language, it's terrible. It is always a great feeling to be able to read a message that tells us what a great asset you are to your school. We are truly blessed to have such a dedicated educator in our district, and we really do appreciate all the hard work you have put into your job. I am sure so much of it is not seen, but it is noticed by the kids you teach, and they are so lucky to have you. Thank you for all you have done and continue to do. Thank you. And you'll each receive a letter that it's nicer than what I said. So look forward to that. But that's it. Can we have you, I don't know, yep, if you have
Coach
anybody.
Tyre
Yeah.
and Mrs. Edgington, right? We would love to shake your hands.
I don't see any ball players.
Yeah,
I mean,
are
school
there
age
any
students.
girls
So,
or-
but if there's, okay, with coaches and everybody, yeah.
Yes.
Hey, Clay, come up when the
Yeah.
other two come
Yeah,
up
come
and
up.
Yeah,
represent.
Clay, yeah.
We would love to shake your hand as well.
Board President, could we also get a picture of Christy Edgington with her family for the Facebook page? Thanks.
Okay.
Come on up.
Thank you so much. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Yeah, for reals. This is like so sweet.
Yeah, because I can't see you guys.
Oh, would you rather go on the side? The question is,
Okay.
he started off that light right here.
Okay, is that everyone? Okay. 1, 2. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay. We love celebrating all the good things that are happening, and we can't even begin to celebrate all of them, but thanks for those of you who are here tonight to help us with those 3 recognition. Before we start public comment, there are 2 separate, thank you. Thanks. We need to approve the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
I second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for keeping me on track. Public comment. The floor is open at this time for any residents of Box Elder County to address the Board of Education on items pertaining to education or the operation of the school district. Participants will be given the opportunity to address the board in the order in which they have signed up. Individual presentations during this segment of the meeting are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes. Group presentations are restricted to a maximum of 6 minutes. When possible, response to the questions, comments will be provided at this time. If additional study is needed to respond adequately to the questions or comments, the residents will receive a written response as soon as possible. The written response will be read publicly at the next regular meeting of the Board of Education. Due to the rights of privacy of the employees of the district, the Board of Education will not discuss specific employee appointments, employment, or performance at this time. Questions and complaints or charges against particular employees are to be referred to the superintendent for action consistent with law and/or district policy. Having said that,
This is only,
there are
Regular
two
public.
different public comments tonight, right?
yes,
And there's no one on the other one? Okay.
but Keith has something to read for school fees, so.
I do have 3 emails that came in that I would like to read when that opens up.
Okay. These are all,
Tax increase, no, that's not school fees, so that's public comment.
so it's all, we're all good.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll start with Thomas Hendry.
I'm here about the tax increase. I am on a fixed income of Social Security, and this tax increase is killing us all. And we voted against this proposal back in November. And is it the board that's going to take it in themselves to go ahead and raise the thing and change it so that you can have 2,200 students at one high school or another, and 900 or 800 or less at another school for a single grade? That's not right. And we need to make things right for the people and for these kids going to school. If it's overcrowded, they're not going to learn that. And I learned a lot when I was in school because we wasn't overcrowded. And now you got it coming now, you're putting 4 grades in for a high school and a single grade for a middle school. That's not right. Anyway, that's my voice.
Thank you. All right. Laura Wheatley. Laura, will you hold? I just have a question. No, you're good.
Okay, well, I'm just here to present the new council president for PTA for Box Elder County to the board. This is Elizabeth Vertig, and some of you might recognize her because she works for the school district. So anyway, I'm really excited. She's going to do a great job, better than me. So is there anything else you wanted to add, Elizabeth?
No, just hi everybody.
So her term officially starts July 1st. So
Can you tell me your children's names? Because I think,
Yeah, my kids are Riker and Levi Vertig. They
Okay.
are in 10th and, well, going into 11th and going into 6th.
I
So,
asked because I thought I maybe knew your kids, but
So.
I don't.
Okay.
It's a
You're
different
good.
family, but awesome. We're so glad to have you.
Thank you.
Laura's, you've got big shoes to fill.
Yep. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Can I just say thank you, Laura, for your many years of hard work and dedication to the PTA. It's hard, and we just appreciate all that you do, or at least I do. I mean, I'm sorry, we all do. Oh,
Well, I was gonna say, she's been so good to come to meetings and keep us informed, which we really appreciate that, so thank you. And welcome to Elizabeth. Excited to have you.
Thank you. All right, Joshua Webster.
All right. My main concern with any time a budget is being proposed that is already been voted on, the people said no, and then goes in the back way and tries to get budget elsewhere, is where is the one, money coming from, and two, who is getting kickbacks from it. When I was in high school in Cincinnati, in a big school district, we did have 22,000 students between 2 high schools. We ended up having, right after one of these kind of things where they were raising taxes, and the school district was pushing past the people and the people's vote. We ended up finding out a lot of people had investments in property, in public lands, or in lands that were potential for new buildings, new locations to go into. So my main concern is who is making money off of this proposal going beyond the democratic vote of the people to not give the money, as well as the concern with future taxes needed to pay off any debts that will be accrued in this kind of policy. I just want to make sure that things are clear, and that we aren't having a situation where we have somebody on the board or related to the board making money off of plans to move people, expanding high schools as would be needed to add another grade into the high school, or the potential selling off of property as we do not need it. And I want to make sure that you'll know we're going to be watching. And so, stay clean.
All right, Nicole Webster. Ooh, I read that wrong. Is that correct? Oh, okay, thanks, sorry.
Hi. I would just like to say, we voted on this in November. The people said no, and I would hope and I would encourage you to listen to what the people said, which was no. I rent, so I don't own a property here, but every time a tax increase hits, my landlord raises my rent to meet the tax increase. And so I feel like all of these tax increases, no matter who it's coming through, you're pricing people out of living in Brigham City. I would love to just buy a property and live here permanently with a property under my name. I can't afford to do that. And every time a tax increase hits, it becomes more unattainable. Also, I know that all the salaries for teachers and superintendents and all that is public knowledge. It's out there. But I have a couple of kids that I homeschool, and they got scholarships this year. I had to account for every penny I spent, whether it was a pencil, just a regular book for them to read, or for a computer. Where's the accountability on what is being spent inside the schools? I would really like to see that. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Jessica Nielsen.
Hi, my name is Jessica Nielsen. I'm the mom to 5. My kids go to Garland, and now I guess the middle school because it's summer. I just wanted to add to, well, first I wanted to say the more I attend these meetings, honestly, the more I appreciate all of you. Like, it's really, you have a very thankless job. And so I really do appreciate you. And I appreciate you taking the time to try and listen and to try and get and hear people's opinion. Like, I don't think you get enough credit for that. But I wanted to add to some of the things you were discussing in your meeting previously. I feel like a lot of this discussion with the tax increase that they're talking about started because we have such problems in our middle school. And I'm pretty sure when I went to school there, we were told we were getting a middle school in 5 years. And I think every year since, we've been told we're getting a new middle school in about 5 years. And so I feel like that's kind of what started this discussion, as well as who knows how many 20-something portables these elementary schools have, right? I feel like there is a huge need, but this discussion promoted this grade distribution realignment, which, in all honesty, you guys have done a really great job of explaining it. It makes sense. You may have swayed me. I'm kind of on the edge, but it makes sense. There's a lot of really valid arguments there. But what I feel like the problem is that you guys have been hearing these conversations for so long. I would just caution you that the reason this started was for the middle schools. And again, we're pushing the middle schools back. We're saying we're still going to we're actually going to put your kids in that school for 3 years now instead of 2 years. And so I feel like the community, obviously there's a whole vast array of us, but a lot of us are willing to pay. We want to pay, but we want to pay for a middle school. And I watched that 3-hour meeting you guys had last, which, holy cow, again, props, but you talked about how if we keep putting things off, it's just more money. So this is not something that's going away. Those middle schools are not going away. I don't understand why in this new decision, why we're saying actually the realignment of the grade configuration is now our top priority. And the middle schools, we're gonna keep using them and keep plugging along. It just feels like if we, I feel like there's a place we can all kind of come together. Maybe not all of us, but a lot of us can come together and be on the same page. And I feel like the middle schools and obviously that West Tremont school is a great place to start. And I think that it's kind of getting lost in this new excitement of switching to the grade configuration. It sounds good. It really does sound good and shiny. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I think people would get behind you more if it didn't feel like you were pushing an agenda. So thank you for your time.
All right, Cassie Nebaker. Did I say that right?
Hi. I actually did vote for this initially last time as a yes because I do think our schools need some work, but the thing, and I know a lot of people voted against it, but the thing that I almost didn't vote for it last time is I just don't feel like I tried to watch the meetings, but I still feel like there's a little bit of a lack of transparency, and I think that's where almost all of us that are okay with paying more are concerned about. We want to make sure that, as others have said, it's not going to like funnel into things that we're not trying to help. And so I really would appreciate like just more explanation, like what happens if there's a surplus? What happens if there's a deficit? How exactly is what you're doing now different from what everybody voted on? I would hope there's at least some changes since everyone voted no on the last one. And I just, as someone else said too, there's always, my in-laws used to work for the school district, and they were always saying that like the superintendents and stuff are making tons of money and the teachers are making no money. I don't want to pay more to the superintendents, I want to pay more to the teachers. But again, we're not always seeing that information, and I really think that if you want the support of the community, we need more transparency. I know it's hard to get people to read this stuff. I am trying to stay up on it, but that's, I think, that is our fear, is that we are all going to get swindled. Also, money is an issue. We know that too. So I'm hoping we are trying to find good deals, trying to find the best, most economical way to do everything, and I don't know that we have any proof that that's what's happening. So that's what I came to speak in favor of. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Pass that down. Thank you. Those of you who took the time to come and present, I took notes as fast as I could. All right, we are going to now, are we on? Thank you. I don't know why I moved my paper, but we are on, there's public comment now available time for school fees, and Mr. Meekham's going to, as there is none.
There are three
online.
Sorry. There are three online. Well, I got emailed
As
to me.
there are none, not is none.
So there are three that I'd like to read.
Okay, perfect.
One comes from Vida, V-I-D-A Moss, and she says, I'm very much against fees causing additional financial stress that would potentially make it so a student from a less than financially secure home be unable to choose classes that would give them the potential to make their future more secure. Please help our students have every opportunity to gain whatever knowledge they can through the public education system, allowing them the access to the CT Pathways programs as well as Bridgeland and USU without the financial burden that could come from having excessive fees that could be unobtainable for some families. Also, whatever fees are decided for sports, please help our students have every opportunity for furthering their futures if possible, or just to be healthier and more balanced students. Thank you for your help. I look forward to hearing from you on how things are going to be better in our school district. Jess, I don't know how to say that name, I'm afraid. Principe, P-R-I-N-C-I-P-E. Hello, I feel that there should be the same fee for any classes, excluding college courses. Otherwise, the only students that will be able to take the fun classes are the students who have their fees waived. There are many families that are right over the line of income to qualify for fee waivers. This would definitely change options for those students. It's not right that all of the options go to those who do qualify for fee waivers. It's the middle class that will suffer. Thank you for asking for opinions. The last one I have is Andrew Smith. There should be no additional fees. It seems like a lot of money is either wasted or mismanaged. And then I don't know if I can get this done in 3 minutes actually. In Utah, a significant portion of state tax dollars is allocated to education, encompassing both K-12 and higher education expenditures. For K-12 education funding, for 2024, Utah's public education budget reached a record of $15 billion, accounting for over half of the state's total budget. This funding includes $578 million in ongoing revenue and $339 million in one-time funds, and making a nearly 20% increase from the previous year. A substantial portion of this budget is directed through the Minimum School Program, MSP, which is the primary funding source for school districts and charter schools in Utah. In fiscal year 2022, the MSP's total budget was approximately $5.37 billion, with 75.86% funded by the state and 24.14% by local revenues. These funds support over 1,300 educational institutions serving more than 675 K-12 students. Federal contributions to education for fiscal year 26. Utah's state budget includes about $600 million in federal funds for public education, accounting for approximately 7% of the total public education budget. In summary, Utah demonstrates a strong commitment to education with substantial investments in both K-12 and higher education sectors. These investments reflect the state's prioritization of education within its budgetary allocation. And then he says, thanks, Andrew J. Smith.
Madam President, I'd like to suggest that we have the school fee approval on G11, and I would like to recommend that we move that to right now, that approval, so we can kind of tie this thing together with the public comments.
I second.
I'll make the
I-
motion.
You're making the.
I'll make the
I just
motion that we move G11 up to now so we can have it with this discussion, school fees.
And I second. Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. I think this will be good because Mr. Meekum can explain some things about this.
Yeah. So this year, House Bill 415, the state legislators passed the law that goes into effect July 1 that says school districts can no longer charge a general fee where it'd be like all classes are the same. So there cannot be a general class fee. It has to be itemized per class. However, in the areas of math, science, language arts, social sciences like social studies, and health, that bill said you cannot charge any fees for that. In addition to that, next year, that bill requires for the 26-27 that there will be a free route to graduate. In other words, the 30 credits that we offer to graduate, we would have to come up with a free route, which means not only math, science, language arts, health, and social studies, but also any kind of PE, CTE, fine arts. There would have to be a free route for this. Some of the comments that were said about, because what we've been doing honestly since about maybe 25 years, maybe even more, 27 years, is back when I first came to Box Elder School District in 1993, we were itemized. Every class cost money. And if I made a class change, then the class change said, oh, you owe us money because your class you're dropping, the one you're adding is more expensive, so we paid more. But then if you dropped a class and got another class that was less, then we refunded. And then somewhere in 99, 2000, the district decided, let's just go to a standard fee. Well, that's what this House Bill 415 has eliminated, is there's no more standard fees. So what you'll see looking here at a 2526, and I have them for intermediate, for middle, and high school. So let's just go at the high school for just a second. And let me increase this so people in the room can maybe read this. So a couple of things that we've never done in our district is every class now has an allotment. And anyway, our administrators have worked really well with teachers and their teams to come up with the budget. But as we did this, as a district leadership team, we just came more and more disgruntled with the fact that some kids that don't qualify for fee waivers are going to have to pay maybe more than they've paid this last year. And what I mean by that is this year's current fees for Bear River and Box Elder High, there was a general class fee for $91 and a student body fee for $25. The new House bill says we cannot pay for that. Those are gone now. But one thing that was nice about this is that every student, regardless of their family's financial situation, paid $91 and they could take any class they wanted. And with that law being eliminated, it does beg the question. A student body fee which supports tailgates, homecoming activities, before and after school, lunchtime activities, all of these things that help kids stay connected, that fee has to be eliminated. So this is what secondary administrators and staffs were looking at to try to make it work. We have two options tonight. And one option is to approve the individual class fee. And you can go through this, and again, depending on if you're at the high school, the middle school, or the intermediate school, you can kind of look. Now, the more hands-on-ish activities that there are, you can imagine it's going to cost more. And if I'm a student that likes more, you're going to probably pay more than $91. If you're a student that's not really what you like, but you're kind of drawn to other things, you'll probably pay significantly less. But the reality is it will increase our administrative assistants over finance. It's going to increase their time because money will be exchanged in and out depending on what class there is. So one option is we approve it with this itemized work. An option two is to use our TSSA funds. We have 25% that were spent towards special ed last year. We've been told that we can't use that money for special ed, and we can eliminate the class fees if we use our TSSA money. And we've looked at all of our school administrators. They've all developed plans, which are actually on the agenda tonight, with that additional 25%. And it doesn't cover every class fee, but it is pretty darn close. Our intermediate and middle schools, it will be covered, and our high schools are probably less than $60,000 total between the high schools to get all the fees, where a kid can just show up for school and guess what? Start taking classes. Any class. There won't be an exchanging of a lot of money because through TSSA funds, we can cover those fees. So imagine that. We have heard free education. And if you're a family of 1 or 2 kids or 3 kids in the secondary level, every August is a $300 to $400 or $500 bill that comes due. That would be eliminated if we chose to use our TSSA funds, which I guess my and Heidi Jo's option, what we would encourage the board is to approve a fee schedule where this all the individual fees would be eliminated. And then we use TSSA funds to continue to have every kid take care of all these classes regardless of their financial status. Yes.
I just curious, will there ever become a point where the TSSA money wouldn't be able to cover that? Like, do we need to worry about future years? Like, if we approve this, do you know what I mean? Like, are we worried about future? Like, then, because I think I'm totally supportive of not paying, like, that sounds great. But in the future, is it going to make it really hard then to then start if we can't afford it? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a great question. Right now, TSSA is a solid program that the state continues to fund, and it's a Teacher-Student Success Act. So it's for teachers, it's for students, its purpose is what education's for. It came out in 2018-19, so it's been around. They keep funding it, and it keeps going up according to, I don't know if it's on the WPU or what the exact amount, but it has increased over the years. We think it would stay consistent. I can't read future, but I would say we're pretty confident that this program will be here to stay. But there's nothing free. So this idea that there's just going to be free school, there are costs. When you have a homecoming activity and a tailgate party, that's not free. We think, though, through TSSA, we can pay for almost all of the fees. And so really, what would that look like for our parents? If you had a kiddo in 6th and 7th grade right now, all they would have come August would be lines 8 through 16. And again, if they decide to change a class, there's just some work that has to go in and doing that. Dual enrollment doesn't apply to everybody. If they went on a field trip, that's something that we still could charge. If they need a music instrument, there's a charge. But just remember, all fee waivers still apply for these little 10 items. Does that make sense? Lockers, some kids don't want a locker. They used to be charged. Everybody gets paid a locker fee. Now it's just if you want it, you can get it. So really very insignificant amounts that would ever be for most parents if they went to schools.
So Keith, what have we been using those funds for? I guess so we'll no longer be able to do what we've done the last few years with those funds. What are those that we'll be giving up?
So the TSSA funds have been going into special education general fund. And so that is going to have to come out of another budget. But if we had the fees still gathered, we're still going to be short because you can't charge for math, science, language arts, social studies, and health. So we're still going to be roughly $300,000 short of our fees. So something's going to come out of the general fund at some point.
Can I expand too on
yes.
that? So a few years ago, we did get approval from the state since the majority or a good portion of our schools, I think it was 9 at the time of our schools were TSI for special ed or students with disabilities. So at that time, they gave us approval to go ahead and use a portion of the funds to distribute across the district and pull it off. They were very hesitant about it at the time, but willing to do it as far as school improvement planning. This last year, that was something that was kind of brought under question of whether or not that would be appropriate. And we also made the shift. We didn't have quite as many schools that are identified for TSI was for students with disabilities. It's dropping and dropping because the schools are improving and focused on that. But what we did do is we did change our TSSA plan to include that schools have to check mark if they're a TSI school and have specific goals aligned with whatever that is. So we have a lot of subgroups that fall under TSI, such as students who are Hispanic or English language learners, students with disabilities. I'm trying to think of the other subgroup we have that's oftentimes, economically disadvantaged students. So now that that is on our TSSA plan, we would be double dipping to say we're going to send this to special ed when the lower percentage of our schools aren't qualifying for that any longer, and we're also giving you money and saying use the money we've given you to write a plan. So that kind of got to where it was like we had to decide with that. So this takes the place of that. We also get an increase to those funds every year. I believe this year it's like a $250,000, $300,000 increase over what we received last year in TSSA funds. So I don't know if that helps.
Would you mind explaining TSI?
Targeted School for Improvement.
Okay.
It's when they look at the bottom portion of the state, and it actually isn't just like the bottom 5% of the state. They have a really complicated algorithm that it's too bad Jeff Morris isn't here because he can do it really well on the fly. But and they identify the subgroups and check to see if they're making comparable growth to their peers that are typical learners. So again, you could qualify in multiple areas, even if your students are still making growth. If their
Multiple
growth
areas,
isn't-
but also a single area. So it's not like our schools are in the bottom 5%. There might just be one subgroup that is in
Yes.
that area that
And
we're
it's
trying to
not
improve.
really necessarily schools compared to schools in the bottom 5%. It actually compares the scores of the bottom 5%. So it's not as cut and dry, because what we end up getting a question a lot from administrators is, how are all of our schools, or how are 9 of our 13 schools possibly in the bottom 5% when we score better than the state average in some areas? And again, it's because they take the scores and look at that in an algorithm. So
Thank you.
Can I just make sure I understand? So what we're saying is, we used to use that for special ed funds, but because of how the things have changed, that would be double dipping. So these 25% in a way that, I mean, I know it's more complicated than that, but, so we're reallocating that money.
yes, and to add on though, it wasn't exactly being tracked for special ed specifically in each of the schools.
Yeah.
We had a deficit in special ed in our budget that we put that
Used for that,
money
okay.
in to support
Right.
in a way to try to build up more support for
Yeah.
students.
And we know
One of
special
the
ed is
ways-
underfunded in general, and so I know we're always pulling money from the general fund to support our special ed students. So this is not going to hurt our special ed students by doing this. This is just, we're gonna reallocate some of these
Yes.
funds in the way that we're supposed to affect all students.
I also neglected to mention a portion of our plan to resolve this issue was that in the past, the TSSA rollover came back to the district. We divided it up and sent it back to the schools to be used on things such as sending teachers to conferences that they may want to go to, or buying special programs that would support them. Moving forward, we'd like to take the TSSA rollover that's not spent and put that into the fund that goes to special education, as well as we've been looking at EARS funding. And talking to a colleague in another district, they take their EARS funding, which is the enhancement of at-risk students, which should be used for students with behaviors, economically disadvantaged, our ELL students, all of their funding comes from that. You can use it to support students in SPED, which we've tried to do. All of our ELL paras in the elementary schools come from that fund, progress monitoring paras, on and on. What other districts are doing that I think is really enlightening that we're going to do moving forward is they take that EARS fund that's not spent and they keep 10% as rollover and give the rest to go towards the special education budget. So we have been trying to network and get some solutions for how we can also offset supporting special education, because those needs are there regardless, which is why it goes, when we create a budget for them, we have to meet the needs of the students regardless of whether or not that fits within a budget. So we're trying to find innovative ways to support SPED.
Heidi Jo
Does
did.
Catherine need to say anything?
Yeah.
on-
Well, Heidi Jo did mention in the middle of her last portion of what the EARS is. And EARS is an acronym for Enhancement of At-Risk Students, and it's a grant that all districts in the state get, and that we have a lot of flexibility to use that money with students who are at risk of whatever the case might be. And so when she said EARS, but you did explain it once, but it was kind of
Yeah.
fast, so I just want to make sure everybody understood
Thank you, I
that.
appreciate that clarification. So the
So-
short answer is we feel like we
So-
can
oh, go
do
ahead.
both.
Questions. So you probably said the amount. How much are you taking from TSSA to cover the fees?
The total is
580,000.
580,000.
580.
This last year, we collected 630,000-ish
For fees.
for fees. So 580 of the TSSA would help if we eliminated the fees. We're pretty close. Not saying we don't need a little extra, but we also can say, is there waste? Is there,
Can we tighten our belts?
But all this money goes for student supplies. Student equipment doesn't go to any, teacher's salary. I'm talking these school fees.
25%.
But a really big side benefit is you don't have to hire more secretaries to try to keep track of all this
Correct.
stuff, which is a great
I think
solution.
honestly, I don't have any kids anymore. They've got grandkids, but if I'm a parent and I walk into a secondary school, and instead of in August saying I've got to pay 75 here and 80 here and 100 here, and I don't have to pay that, that feels kind of
Can
good.
I speak to a parent of 3 students that will be in secondary schools this
Yeah,
year?
go ahead on that.
Because I've been reviewing this, like how much is this gonna cost? And I'll have a 7th grader, a 10th, and a 12th this coming year. And they're not really big into like the welding or some of the CTE pathways that cost a lot of money, but my senior is taking advanced placement classes and concurrent enrollment, which even though they are in the core subject areas, they are not whatever that thing is. They can still charge a fee for those. And so I was just kind of perusing, and it's going to cost me more. Now, it could cost others less, but I like to budget and I like to plan, and I'm like a year out at least, and I try to plan like I know every August this is going to come. And so just my brain bandwidth, I'm just eliminating that would be so nice. and I think, and more importantly, I'm willing to pay, and I'm grateful I'm in a position where I can pay for whatever classes my kids need to take, and I know not everybody is in that position. I am very concerned about those that don't qualify for fee waivers, but can't afford all the classes they want to take. And I think we're seeing an increasing number of CTE pathways that we're offering and kids want to take, and if we are excluding those students because of money, I think that is, we're disadvantaging our students, our community, our future. And so by reallocating these funds that it sounds like we probably need to reallocate anyhow from the TSSA, use them in a way that's going to impact a large number of students and families. I'm completely supportive of this plan, of the option that you present to not do the itemized, but to do the
Just eliminate.
just
them
eliminate
and
them.
use other funding sources.
And if I understand, like the high school activity pass, they'll still have to pay that if
Well,
they want
I
to
wanted
participate.
to bring that up.
Okay,
I don't know
please
how
do.
y'all feel about it. The reason why we brought this up is I don't know where to call it, but we have activities that happen, athletic events. If a kid was to go to every event that Bear River High and Box Elder High pay money, to charge for, it would be over $200. So one of the thoughts is we still want to have activities and everything that we want people to be a part of. Instead of saying every kid will pay it like we have for the last 30 years, $25 regardless, it would be something that those that are interested in that type could pay it, and those that aren't are not. However, I've been doing some reflection as well, and maybe we hold off and just let every kid go to all the activities. I know that they still have to pay for certain fine arts type, evening type stuff, but in general, they could just go to any game. We want them to be a part of something great, and we could eliminate it. It will, again, we have this deficit that I don't know how to figure it out, but I know that there is some maybe one-time funding this year from the state to help support that, and maybe we monitor it and see how things settle as we go through this process, and then make plans, a year from now or 2 years from now. So I guess my thought is line number 16 that you see here on the high school tab, we could eliminate that, as well as all the other fees that are class oriented. And then basically, we're not changing any fees that have been charged that have quote unquote were optional, like as needed. They would be the same as we've had for the last 3 years. And then the last thing, I guess, just on this fourth tab, this is the one that's extracurricular. Extracurricular to me is different. We don't really get any money for extracurricular. So if you're going to have competitive teams, activities, etc., you have to pay for that. And
Otherwise it goes on our
otherwise,
taxpayers.
anyway. So cheerleaders, they're asking for a $50, and a drill team, that's really, the state has increased an assignment or, a requirement that they need to have certain things. So it's gone up $50. Debate and esports are new, and so that would be the ask for that. Bear River High has involvement with IHC, and IHC's asked for $10 more, and so that's why that went from 25 to 35.
What's IHC?
Intermountain Hospital, and they work with all the athletes. Our trainer is hired from Intermountain Hospital, and they provide supports with all of the kids during the summer. So
Keith?
if it's highlighted in yellow, it's different than last year. And by the way, this went up so that we could help give more money to transportation. It increased by $10, and so parents get a little confused when we say, so it's, and I'm going to show you how this breakdown would be. And I don't know if you can read. Can you see that? Only if you have font 0 here. $30 goes to the sport budget, $25 to the general athletic budget, $25 to the district for referees, coaches, $30 for the district for transportation costs, and then $10 for the drug testing fee. And rather than trying to break it up, just like put it in one, and that's what it's used for.
Karen had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I'm not sure if I was following you. Will there still be fees for AP and concurrent enrollment?
As needed, yes. Those are,
So those
according
aren't
to
gonna be
House Bill
covered.
415, those don't get touched. So whatever a college asks, I think it's about $15 to take a
So
class.
This TSSA money does not cover that?
Correct.
Okay,
That's
just
still
wanted to
very
clarify.
good. Yeah, so AP is outside. Now, I guess
Driver's ed, right?
we could
You have to pay for the
waive
test.
those, but I would probably say we shouldn't at this point.
I just wanted to add on one thing. Something we liked about the TSSA funds being given to the schools is that then the administration, the teachers, and the school community councils can be more involved in the school fees that are allocated to each class too, to hopefully support that. So anyway, I just wanted to.
Hey, Keith, now, any student that wants to do like cheerleading or a drill team or whatever, if they don't have the funds, they can still apply for a fee waiver,
Yeah,
is that
every one
correct?
of these fees with all of these extracurricular are fee waiverable.
Okay.
And so one of the things that you do tonight is we have to, as a board, you have to approve a maximum fee. There are kids that are involved in, and they can get up to 35. By the way, that's what we've had for the last couple of years. And I still believe, especially if we don't charge fees for classes, that it's going to be really hard to get to 3,500. But if there is a student that involves, they go on the choir tour and they're in athletics here and athletics here and athletics here, you could get up. But anything over 3,500, you know, I've looked at other districts, they're like 5,000, 7,000. So I think we're really pretty reasonable in terms of how much a maximum would be. So the maximum is what you also approved tonight is a maximum fee. And just so you know, for example, just because volleyball says $800, that does not mean that it's $800. What that means is it's maximum $800. And then at the bottom of this chart, I'll just go to Box Elder High, for example. Maybe I'll go to my wife's. She was the head volleyball coach for the boys. And you can kind of see what this last year was. So every coach works with the athletic director. Notice $800 is what the board approved, and they paid $408. So just because you see a number that is ginormous doesn't mean that that's how much they pay. Now, I will tell you that cheer and drill, they probably could use $2,500. It's expensive. So they do spend that much. But not every sport or activity actually gets to that amount, if that makes sense. Stephanie?
Just because I don't understand, but the waiver, who pays for the waiver? Like when it gets school waived, does that come out of our budget then, or is it coming from a state budget?
Yeah, so it's a federal government program. The federal government sets the bar of what allows you to have a fee waiver depending on how much you made from the previous year's federal income tax, or your most 3 recent paychecks. And anyway, so every administrator around July, August, parents can apply for fee waivers, and if they meet the qualifications, we waive the fee. If they don't, we don't waive the fee. We do deal with hard, what would it be? Hard, what's the word, people? Hardship, thank you. If you have a hardship, thanks, Louis. If you have a hardship where all of a sudden a family lost employment, a crisis happened, and all of a sudden, yeah, they made it last year, but right now their life is in turmoil, we can do hardships as well. But at the end of the day, the district refunds schools for all fees that were waived. So it will come from the district budget anytime there is a fee waiver. It is a non-funded mandate by the federal government to waive those fees, so we have to use general funds to do that.
And I know it's not a direct correlation, but usually that bar is free and reduced lunch.
Actually, they're exactly the same now.
Okay, it's the same one.
That
So
bar is the same for free and
if
reduced.
a child qualifies for free and reduced, that's the bar
That's
for
the
fee
bar.
waivers.
They're now in alignment.
And that's the federal side of this thing.
Correct. So I was kind of disappointed in that we were going to have to present itemized fees like House Bill 415, which I wasn't in favor of. Sometimes you don't get what you want, but it got passed, even though our legislators did a good job of trying to, but there was only one person that voted against it, and it was Tom Peterson. He's the only one that voted against this. So the law's in place. I think to help families out, I think we ought to use our other funding, and that would be, I guess, what, as a district leadership team, we would like to make the motion, that we keep all those kind of optional fees and AP and concurrent enrollment, but then not let parents have to charge fees, other than the extracurricular.
Right.
So if we go that way, can we just make a note to next year in maybe April, before we get ready for the budget, to come back and see how much it cost and how it all worked out?
So I will tell you that the law says by April 1st, you have, as a board, have to approve it, and it needs 2 public hearings. So
At some point prior to when we need to approve it, I'd like to review
the
it.
reality is yes, I will, but the problem is we'll be about 50% of the year over. So we'll do what we can. We'll see where we are, and we will make note of that and make sure that we give good information. We may need to say, the problem is you can't do a blanket fee. Hey, we'll just charge everybody $5. That's what is against the law, or the House Bill 415. So we'll certainly give feedback. We'll monitor it. Neil and I and building administrators will make sure that things are solid and we're looking and working through things. I do not want our teachers, I do not want them to not have things that they can purchase, use to bless kids' lives. I don't want that. So we have to have the money somewhere. And if we can do TSSA, I think that's a good starting point, and then we adjust moving forward. So thank you for the audience listening to this.
And if I understand, both you and Heidi Jo feel like that this is the greatest need to be using the TSSA money for.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because there was something a few minutes ago that I thought maybe might be worth noting. As we mentioned, that added about $580,000 for secondary to use towards this area, which we felt was their area of greatest need. Elementary school, on their per student amount, was about $480,000, which the thing that we heard time and time again from teachers was that they would really like to see kindergarten paras, because with the old all-day K model, they had kindergarten paras. So while this may not allow us to put a kindergarten para in every single kindergarten classroom for the full day, it's allowing us to offer hours to those kindergarten classrooms, and that will save us from having to put that cost onto the general fund. So elementary gets a win, secondary gets a win. We're hoping it's really going to be beneficial, but both are just kind of a let's try it and see this year.
But maybe one more comment. Out of the 100% of TSSA, 25% goes to salaries. That's just mandated that it has to be 25%. It can go up to 40, but we've kept it at 25. And 50% already go to the schools for their greatest academic need. So those plans that you're going to review tonight, 50% of their allotment is for that greatest academic need. And then this 25% is in addition that we think can get rid of these fees, which helps families, helps kids, helps teachers, and then we'll monitor.
And I guess that's where I was going, but you guys feel like that it's 25%. The best use for it is to cover these fees and to help with the kindergarten pairs. Okay.
Yes.
I would just like to speak to unfunded mandates really quickly. I serve on the Joint Legislative Committee, and every year we see so many mandates from our legislators that are unfunded, that we as a district have to figure out what to take from to fulfill that mandate, that law. And this is just one example of that. So thank you for finding us a way to offer education to kids that is not restricted by what they can afford to take. I appreciate that.
I will second that. Thank you. I'm very grateful you found another option. I know you put in a lot of time, probably both of you, in school fees over the last 3 years. With that, I make a motion that the Board of Education approve the 2025-2026 Box Elder School District General Student Fees Schedule, which will eliminate class fees and general fees per the schedule.
I second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you. I noticed a couple were taking pictures. I'll clean this up and eliminate all those fees, and I will send it out to, I'll have Jamie put it on our websites, so you'll have access to all of that. It'll be on every school website so that you can access, or the district website, so you'll have access to all of those things. Thank you.
I'd be remiss if I didn't say something about Keith putting in the work on this for the last several years, but he has spent a lot of time with the financial secretaries at the buildings, our own Yvette Gunn, with the athletic directors, with the coaches. You saw this document that was up here that had 4 tabs at the bottom with all the information in it. And just so you know, Keith took this on several years ago when he was one of his many hats was student services director. Now he's the assistant superintendent over the secondary schools, and with that, he's kind of the district athletic director. So that's one of the many things. But Keith puts in an incredible amount of time, and the 50, 60 hours he puts in on an average week, I think need to be noted. And the same with the person to his left. They both put in a tremendous amount of time, and just want to thank them very much.
Yep, thank you. All right. We're good. Moving on to our action items, we need a motion to enter into a budget hearing at this time.
I move we move into a budget hearing. That sounded redundant, but
Second.
Oh, Karen, second.
So Karen is the second. Did you get that, Neil? And all those in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Mr. Stevens.
Being this is my first time doing this, do we hold opportunity for comment first or afterwards?
Usually after. I think after.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. I emailed all the members of the board a short presentation I'll be providing here. Not this one, Keith, the one I emailed you. Sure. It's a brief summary of some economic indicators and items going on in our that influence our budget. First part, we'll talk about some background slides here. Yeah, can you enlarge it to one slide, Keith, on screen? Right there. Yeah. So the first thing I want to highlight here is our county is getting bigger. So prior to 2020, we were lumped into a economic area that included Ogden, Weber, Clearfield, and Davis counties. They're called the Ogden MSA. And we have outgrown that so much that the U.S. Census Bureau gave us our own economic area. And our growth has, I won't say exploded, but has grown substantially even since then, and it continues to grow. So that's the I guess the narrative behind all this is that we're no longer a small Box Elder County that we used to be. We have over 64,000 residents here. When previously we had, even 5 years ago, 55,000. So we're growing at a significant pace here. Next slide. So let's talk about employment in the county. Manufacturing is our biggest sector. We have multiple Nucor sites, Procter & Gamble. We now have Lakeshore Learning and a bunch of other smaller manufacturers. That is a huge contributor to the wage base in our county and also the number of jobs in our county. Oftentimes we have people commuting from other counties to come here to work in those manufacturing plants because of the opportunities it provides that aren't elsewhere. And some of that is investments that we have as a district have afforded, where we do tax increment financing that allows these companies to expand their facilities, provide more employment opportunities for our residents in our counties. Sometimes the governor's office provides those economic incentives, and other times it's provided by private industry. But there is a significant expansion in our wage base, meaning the number of jobs available, which directly impact the number of income taxes that are collected. Now, those income taxes do not stay in our county. They go to the state level, and they're redistributed for education purposes and purposes of students with disabilities. So three areas that receive income tax dollars are K-12 education, what we do here in this building. Public universities receive funding, and Department of Health for Medicaid and CHIP funding, as well as support lower income families who need assistance with medical insurance and health services. Those are the three uses of our income tax dollars. So although the income doesn't stay here, those tax collected in our county, it goes to support schools. So that's, I feel, is very important to understand about the different ways we receive our funds and where it comes from. And these sectors are really driving what happens here in this county. Next slide.
Oh, sorry, I have one question.
Sure.
So just to clarify, the government section of that, the 13%, is that then teachers working at the schools, is that included in the government section?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, thank you.
So the source of information is Department of Workforce Services. I know there's a building right next door to us. That services public-facing benefits. This comes from the Research and Analysis Division. And through unemployment insurance, they gather all this data. Every employer, including the school district, is required to send in wage data. Number of people working, how much they're paid, number of new hires each year. So this comes from there. And each employer is assigned what we call a NAICS code. It's an industry code that identifies what business activity they're doing for us or government or education. So it's included in there. Teachers are included. County government, city governments, all those people who work for the federal government is all included in that figure.
So for our county, the school district employs 1,800 people, 19 or
2,200.
2,200. So we're 75% almost of that category.
I believe the county has 22, 25 individuals outside the sheriff's office that work for support administration. So it gives you kind of a rough estimate that we're majority of the operation here in the county for government employees.
Down in the green section where it says ed, is that educational health services?
Yeah.
That's what the ed stand, okay.
Yeah.
So that would be like Bear River Mental Health?
Yeah.
Is that what, okay.
Yep. Let's talk about wages. Manufacturing is on average $107,000 per individual, not household, individual. That's almost double the average wage in the county. So employers are paying a lot for manufacturing talent, people who work in the facilities, and that's a draw in our county. It's attracting residents, it's attracting people to move to this county to live here and work here. That's part of our growth here is from manufacturing. Various different entities may receive a grant from the state to expand jobs, and that includes manufacturing. Next, we can see that healthcare services, they're about $63,000. Educational services, on average, is $93,000. That include our employees in our district. But it also includes USU extensions, Bridgerland, all those different entities that provide education services in the county.
But that's the average salary, so
Yes.
that's your new teacher, the middle between your new teacher and your 20-year veteran teacher.
administration, everything.
Administration, okay.
Obviously, in education, the more years you have, and the higher salary goes. So this is just the go back one, Keith. That's right. Just explaining where we're at in the county, what are our drivers for economic expansion in the county, which does affect home prices, does affect property taxes, it does affect all these things that you see expanding in our county. It's not, and it's being driven by outside influences. Next slide, Keith. So this shows where people are coming from. So we have a natural increase, that's what we call a birth-death model. And on average, it's below 500 people a year. That just, and we know that from birth certificates and death certificate records, where that goes. Then we have international immigration. So we have people who come from abroad either to study here, work here, maybe be on a specific type of visa, or maybe in a refugee status. That a very small percentage of our new residents are coming from that. The majority is coming from domestic migration. People who did not previously live in this county, who moved here for a certain purpose, whether it's for school or for work or for family or whatever, they came from outside our county into our county. And that is happening because we're the next most affordable county between here and Salt Lake. First you have Salt Lake, then they went to Davis, then they went to Weber, and now it's us. You go to the south, Utah County is much more expensive than us to live in. I said this in previous meetings, the commute time from southern Utah County, I think Scanniquin Payson, isn't as nice as the commute time from Tremont and Willard into Salt Lake. So that's why you see a lot of people relocating here because of the commute and also because of the other economic opportunities that exist here. So that's the background on economic data. Let's talk about the historical WPU value. WPU value is how the state allocates income tax dollars to school districts. And essentially, it's an equalization formula. We have wealthy counties, we have not so wealthy counties across the state. And the legislator has the, I won't say the theory, but the principle that every student should be funded equally. And so they take all the income tax dollars across the state, they also look at property tax revenue, and they equalize a per WPU basis, weighted pupil unit. And from there, they, based on the number of students you have, they allocate dollars. And this is what it's been looking like. And it's been a steady increase over the years. Next coming year, the rate's gonna be 46.74. That's about a 4% increase. That is a minimum amount that they're required to by law for the inflationary adjustment that's codified in law. So they didn't give us any more than they're actually required to. Some years we get a lot, some years we don't get anything at all, but it's just a historical value. And this covers about 58–60% of all expenditures in the district. The majority of the state funds go to support students and classrooms. Teachers, paraprofessionals, pays for the utilities that run our buildings, the gas, electric, all those things. It pays for it pays for all of our school buses. All these things is what helps support education in the classroom. The majority of it comes from state funding. Next slide, Keith. This one may be hard to read, but what it is the inflationary adjustment is retrospective, is backward looking. So this is illustrating that over time we have high inflationary times, and then we receive the WPU money at a later date. Oftentimes it's not keeping up with inflation, and that's by design. How they wrote the law, it's a 5-year average looking backwards. So for 2026, we're looking at 2024 through 2020. Those years includes the inflationary adjustment. And we know that in 22 and 23 and 24, we had very high inflation. So we're receiving it now, but our costs were years ago. So the funding we receive is always backward looking. And that's important to know when we're anticipating tax raises for employee compensation or other increased costs for us. we need to take that into account, that we need the money now to pay for those costs, and we may not see the funds for those from the state until years later.
Which one is inflation and which one is like the blue and the green?
The green is inflation and the blue is the WPU value.
Okay.
So this is the growth in WPU. So how much increase from year over year? So we can see last year it went up 5%. Inflation was just below 3%. But that takes into account the 21 and 23 years when inflation was measured at 8% on an annual average. So you can see how the delay impacts us there. But the increase in inflation happens in that actual year. Next one here. So this is another slide that talks about our property tax mix. So different types of property are taxed in different ways. Residential property is taxed at 55% of its actual value. Commercial and secondary property that's not used for your primary residence is taxed at 100% of its value. Same thing with commercial property. However, farmland or agricultural land that's used for farmland for production, either ranching or agricultural crop raising, is taxed at different rates. Depending on how you use the property, has different various tax rates. So this is comparing our total tax value across different counties that we compete with for teachers and for just education in general. We use Davis because we get teachers from Davis, and we have teachers that leave for Davis as well. Obviously, they have a much higher property value, so they have a much bigger amount of property tax to draw from. However, what we see is that they have a higher central assessed property value, the orange, than most other districts. So they get 100% of that value, but we may have a higher percentage or dollar figure that comes from residents. So we give less dollars on residents per property than we do for a business. So this illustrates where we're at compared to the counties around us. We're a very unique county or district. We have small property values per student. However, we have a larger student count than counties of the similar size or similar property makeup. I like to say we're the biggest little district. We have about 12,000 students. Cache is slightly bigger than us. Of course, they have higher property values. But of the rural districts that spread across great areas like we are, we have the most amount of students. So we're kind of a little donut hole, comparatively speaking, between urban and rural, and it makes it difficult financially to support our needs without a tax raise every so often.
Neil?
Yes.
On that chart, vacant land is not government-owned land, right?
No.
That's
No.
privately owned vacant
Correct.
land.
So vacant land is undeveloped land that is not zoned or used for agricultural purposes.
So, but we would also be, if government-owned land was on here, like federally government-owned land or state-owned land, we would be the largest, where we would get no collection off of that.
No, that would be the San Juan County.
Well, for the counties on this chart.
For the counties here, yes, yes. We receive payment from the federal government about $35,000 per year. It's called payment in lieu for that land owned that we can't collect property taxes on. So it really doesn't make up for the difference of not receiving tax, but they give us something for it. Next one's Keith. And again, I apologize for the small print here. You have all these slides in your emails, board members. This is talking about the percentages of property by different mixes. So we can see that for primary resident buildings, Weber School District has nearly 50%. For us, we're at 38% of our buildings are resident buildings.
Sorry, maybe when you mention a school, will you just tell the color so that
Oh,
people
yes,
can
so
kind
the
of
Weber's
follow?
in purple, and we are in dark blue. We have a fairly good amount of assessed value for centrally assessed properties. We're the bottom one there. And same thing with personal properties. I provide this to provide an illustration of how we compare across different counties. Generally, our property values are much lower. It's not in here, but in our budget book, there's a slide that compares property tax valuations per student. We're about $651,000 per student of property tax value. The statewide average is $1.4 million. So we're half the statewide average of assessed property value per student. And that requires our property tax rates to be at a higher average to collect the same amount of revenue. Obviously, there's a caps there. We will never be able to collect the same amount of revenue as a Cash or Logan or a Weber. It's impossible with our valuations and with the caps set by the legislator to collect enough money. This slide here talks about our enrollment versus average daily membership. This is important because average daily membership is how we are funded by the legislator. Enrollment is a point-in-time count. Average daily membership is a count of how often students are in class. We have a 190-day school year, and this measures how much of the day are they in class. Ideally, they would be the lines would be identical, but we have absences, and oftentimes across the state there is a problem with chronic absenteeism, and this is where it shows up at. And just to illustrate where our trends have been on attendance, obviously the COVID years 20 through 2020 through 2022 were difficult on attendance, but generally we've been trending up, and it kind of mirrors our trend here. Let's see here.
Just curious, from 24 to 25,
Sure.
do we know, do we have much numbers on how much of is it that's Fridays that are being missed versus other days of the week? Or is that not for this conversation?
Not for this conversation. I'd have to dig into the data to see where those trends are and where we see the biggest difference between enrollment numbers and daily membership numbers.
For the last 32 years that I'm aware of, Fridays are always missed more than any other day. However, I do have the data of what Friday versus Thursday versus Wednesday versus Tuesday. I can get that to you.
Let's skip this slide. Keith is a duplicate. I apologize. So let's look at what the legislature did this year for us. So they raised the value of the WP by 4%. They gave additional funding, what we call below the line funding, that's not funded by a average per student amount, by 6%. And then the total impact was about $8.65 billion is what is allocated to education, state dollars across the entire state. As we can see, the ongoing money, meaning new money we'll see each year going forward, was only $231 million of that. The remaining part, $417 million, was one-time funds, meaning they gave us only for next year $417 million more across the state. In the following year, that money won't be there. And so it makes it tough to run districts and education on that in general, because you only can use that for one-time expenses. You can possibly buy vehicles. You can do maintenance on a parking lot, for example, install air conditioning if you need to. One time, it's not ongoing, but majority of our expenditures are ongoing expenditures. About 70% of our budget is comprised of salaries and benefits. Generally people come to work, they come to have a career at a job, and it's each year going forward. It's not a one-time cost. So it makes it difficult to balance budgets long-term where we have one-time money in certain areas. It makes it kind of volatile, and that oftentimes requires districts such as ours to raise property taxes to account for the shortages where programs were cut. And we did see some cuts this year in several different areas. For example, CTE was cut by $360 million. So we either have to cut staff and our expenses in those areas, which affects students and their opportunities, or we have to find other areas of new revenue to make up for those shortages. Next slide, Keith.
Can you tell me real quick
Sure.
the percentage of that $417 million?
Mm-hmm.
What's the percentage that our school district would see?
That all depends.
I know that.
It's hard to nail down. I'll give you an example. Catalyst Center grant. You meant to be directed towards CT learning centers.
Oh, so some of it's very directed.
Yeah, it's
not just a
one-time
general-
money.
Yeah.
It's a grant for
Okay.
$65 million. So you have to apply for it, and you may or
Right.
may not get an amount.
Right, okay.
And I'll illustrate the impact of that really quick here. Last year, a school safety grant was allocated by the legislator for $100 million. Now, someone went to the Department of Public Safety to work with schools on school safety, but our district received $6,000 of the $100 million because they perceived that other districts had greater need than ours, and so that's what we got. So it's really hard to nail down that one-time money of how much we're going to get. It's all really dependent on how it's structured, how the funding mechanism is, and what other needs are for people who apply for that same pot of money.
If I might, one of the reasons for that is Robert Gordon's fault. And that is because he has done such a good job pushing getting cameras throughout our district. And that's one place where very much of this first round of money went to. And so it's a good thing, but we took care of it and a lot of the districts didn't. So that's why we got such a low amount of money. That's one of the reasons.
Correct. So on this slide, we see there's some different funding pots they put out. So necessary existent small schools. Out of the 16.4 million of new money out there, we received about, I want to say about $400,000 more this upcoming school year. And this supports our schools, that's just Snowville, Park Valley, and Grouse Creek, where a lot of this money comes from. School safety needs support grant. Again, that's going to be a grant we apply for, and they'll have a committee that evaluates our application, determine how much funding we'll receive. We're competing against a lot of charter schools that don't have local property tax taxing ability, and so I suspect that they will receive priority in a lot of these areas over our districts. Also, I mentioned the Catalyst Center grants here. This is for our CTE centers to develop CTE learning centers and programs that cater towards those programs to help them establish those programs. Many districts may not have those centers already, and this is a focus to improve trade and technical education at the high school level, rather than at the college level or at the trade school level.
We've mentioned this before, but currently we're in a consortium with Logan School District and Cache School District to look at what's called a CAPS program, which is what this is, the Catalyst Center. And so we are working, and we feel like we're positioned well maybe to get some of this money because of the work we've done over the last year.
Yes. The last one is teacher professional hours. This is money to support teachers in their professional learning, whether it's conferences, continuing education to maintain the licensure. It's funds to help them further their skills and maintain the skills they have to have a more positive impact on our student outcomes. Next one, Steve. So this is, I put the slide in here to illustrate the impact that the legislator and the State Board of Education have on operations in school districts and charter schools as well. So last year, this past fiscal year in 2025, starting in January through March, 45-day session, they passed, introduced education bills for 230 education bills. 136 of those passed. It's a 57% pass rate. That's a lot of new requirements imposed on districts and charter schools to how they provide education to students. Next slide, Keith. What does that mean? Well, that means that, we got a lot more money in general, but we have 41 new state board rules. The state board puts out rules because the legislator made a new law. The state board rules are used to interpret the new law of how it should be applied and what we need to do for that. That resulted in 10 new programs. It resulted in 15 new reports that we have to produce data to the State Board of Education every year. Someone's got to gather that data, someone's got to analyze that data, make sure it's accurate and correct, and submit it to the State Board, and then follow up with the State Board if they have questions. It also produced 12 additional reports. So the first one is reports that USB must do, but they have to gather data from us, so they request additional data from us to support that. The purple on 12 represents 12 new reports that we have to produce for them. We have to gather out of our SIS system or our financial system to give to the State Board for their analysis to report to the legislator. And it also resulted in 8 new RFPs, or it's requests for proposal. It means that there's 8 new contracts for services out there that the state board is going to roll out, that then is going to come to us to ask for information or help support or participate in those different contracts. One of those contracts is the newest administrator for the UFA, Utah Fits All Scholarship Program. The previous scholarship administrator was not renewed for their contract based on performance that they had. So what does this result in? Well, new or amended requirements for us. 60% of those requirements had no funding attached to them. That means that our personnel in the district office, in schools, principals, teachers, have that much more work to do, and they no more compensation to hire additional staff for workload, to hire help outside, or to bring in experts to help us. It all supported on existing funding, or us requiring us to go out and fund this with new tax raises. This money does not grow on trees, and we have to find a source for it. We're not a private industry where we can go make more widgets, sell more cars, build more buildings. It all comes from tax revenue. So when they ask us more of us, either it requires more staff hours in excess of what we already are working, or requires more money to have more staff to support those things. Additionally, when those requirements are passed through from the legislator to the State Board of Education, they pass more rules as well. So every time a new law or regulation is created by the legislator, it results in much more work on the back end for us, and oftentimes the more rules of how the State Board interprets those requirements. I put this in here because this is a real big driver in the past couple of years of admin costs across the state, not just in our district, but across the state. It's back on there. Next slide, Keith.
No, yeah, I apologize for this. It's glitchy.
So let's talk about our fund balances coming into this school year. For maintenance operations, which is pretty much 90% of what we do, every person who works in the school, in a building, custodians, our transportation staff, our administration, our janitors, they all fall in that category. We came into the year with $20 million. Now that may seem like a lot, but that really funds the district for 6 weeks. Our cost for all those functions is about $136 million a year. So $20 million does not go very far. It's recommended by the state auditor's office and other entities that we have double that as a savings account. For instances like COVID, when the perception is that we may lose a lot of tax dollars, well, how do we support operations ongoing if we lose our revenue streams, whether it's federal revenue or state revenue, or there's a economic calamity like the Great Recession in 2009, where property values plummeted, and we are looking to reduce revenues. This is our savings account. Just like many people may have a savings account, emergency fund at home in their personal finances, this is what we have here in the event of those things, so we can continue providing the public good of education to students. And the school activity fund, which is school fees, money collected over the years, we had $3.5 million sitting there. For debt service, that is only used to pay the general obligation debts that are approved by the voters. We had $8.5 million in there. And we can't use it for any other function than to pay the bond funds. Our capital budget, which is for building construction, it's for maintenance of facilities, parking lots, air conditioners, any big ticket item we see. We have $22 million in there. And then we have $5.1 million in our food service account. That account is to be used only for the school nutrition program. It can't be used for any other function. So the vehicles that we transport food in, the delivery trucks, the warehouse, all the food we buy, the staff who serve food, the kitchen facilities, all comes out of this fund here. So this is where we started at. Next slide, Keith. And I apologize for the audience and the smallness of the print here. But this is where the legislative estimates, basically what we get from the state, that changes throughout the year based on when data comes in. The State Board of Education makes estimates of where we'll be at, and they have a methodology for that. And it may not be most accurate for every district. And they change as data comes in throughout the year, because our reports we have to go through a reporting deadline. So we're finished with school now, but we don't send student data to the state board until sometime in end of August. And so then they have to go through, they analyze it, they make sure it's correct, make any error corrections. And oftentimes we don't know our final dollars that we're receiving until the middle of May. And so what we see here is that there are some reductions in certain areas. The biggest reduction is in the K-12 line. That is the program that is supported in conjunction with local tax dollars. So as we have local tax dollars increased above what the state board estimated, we get less state funding. And so basically what this says is that we receive $1.6 million more in state funding, in local tax dollars for this program than the state board estimated. It's not because we were inaccurate, it's that there's more academic activity in our district that resulted in greater tax receipts. So that means we receive less state support for those same programs. This pays all of our gen ed teachers. It pays for our utilities. It's just the biggest source of funding that's not restricted to pay for these things. That's an important distinction here. That we're depending more on local tax dollars in this area than state revenue. This is part of the equalization formula. So overall, we had about $1.2 million reduction in this fiscal year. Next one, Keith. So moving on to our next programs here, we have what we call related to basic programs. The biggest change here is in pupil transportation. And I presented on this last board meeting, I believe. This went down because the estimated miles that we submitted last summer was less than we actually drove. And so the miles report is actually due in November. And so they start to true up or compare the estimates to the actuals, and then they adjust our funding throughout the year. So because we estimated we would drive more miles than we did, we actually lost money, about $604,000. So we'll have to make up that shortfall with local tax dollars to support that. Next one, Keith. And what we see here is these are some programs that support us. So we have a voted local levy and a board local levy. The state supports us on a per student basis, and it's a formula that takes into account a 5-year rolling average of our tax receipts in these areas. As you can see, we lost some money here. Actually, we gained money. We lost $79,000 in the voted local levy, and we gained $149,000 in the board levy. So we gained about $70,000 in this area. However, overall, we are down about, on the last line there, change in total funding, $720,000 is what our reduction in funding from our estimates. So that shortfall will be made up of local tax dollars. So next year, so in approving or proposing a final budget for this school year, we made some changes here based on our needs throughout the year that we identified, and we spent money in these areas. So in our budget book on line 34, we added $200,000 to appropriate, and I'm not sure what page this is on. Let me get there. Is it 31? Yes. We added $200,000 for the purchase of a social emotional learning software. The board approved this contract about 2 budget meetings ago, and the Budget Procedures Act requires us to have sufficient expenditures approved, and so we need to increase the budget to account for this purchase. And this goes to support student learning and behavior areas in various different classroom instructional areas across our district. And we previously did not have this curriculum. So this is an addition here. Our next one on line 59, be on the next page. And this is an agenda item later on today. We're proposing purchasing a student tracking software for transportation. So this will allow, when a student gets on a bus, They would scan their ID card in on the bus, and we know when they got on the bus and when they get off the bus. If a student gets off at a wrong stop, the parent will know where that student's at and where they got off at. We receive a lot of phone calls and inquiries of, where is my student? Did they get on the bus? Did they get off the bus? This is a way for parents to know in real time when the student got on the bus, where, and where they got off the bus, and to ensure that they can accurately know where their student's at and not have students that are misplaced. I don't say misplaced, but students who maybe stayed on the bus, and didn't get off the bus, or got off the wrong stop, or missed their stop, or maybe they missed the bus entirely in the morning. This is an effort to help parents know where their students are at in real time when it comes to transportation. Yes, we already use this app for other areas. It's called Samsora. So we'll have iPads or tablets on the bus that they scan in and they scan out. Yes, yes. No, that's a one-time cost. So the way transportation works is that we receive 85% of our cost reimbursed from the state. So last year's cost resulted in 85% of new revenue this year. And so we spend the money this year, and for next year, we'll get 85% of that back. But I need to have the board, to have a budget established for that expenditure this year. And so essentially, we're floating 15% of this into the new year. So we'll see this money next year. The ongoing cost is about $34,000 a year. So the impact on our local funds will be about $15,000 a year ongoing. And we felt like that was a worthy investment for parents and for the district as well. Line 123. Last year there was a budget line item added for the acquisition of a general obligation bond. And when we acquire a bond, banks need to make money on their services to us to issue the bond, and they have a bond fee. The fee was about $50,000. We do not need that money, so I'm taking that out of the budget, or requesting us to take it out of the budget this year. The reduction is about $47,000. There's $2,500 that we're required to pay our bond servicer, in this case Zions Bank, as an annual fee for managing our bond. So that's what the balance is. Line 152. So we're adding 2 portables at Lakeview. Lakeview portables did not meet fire code because they're too close to the building. So the fire marshal said we need to move them. In order to move the existing portables, I think there's 4 of them right now, and added 2 additional portables, that's a $500,000 expense. And it's required for safety reasons. So that's why this line item's here. And our construction manager they have space on their schedule to do it this month. And that's why we need to put it in the budget for this year to be able to account for that expenditure. No, we've already had the portables. The portables were repurposed from other campuses in the district. So we're not acquiring any more portables. We're just moving the portables from the current location to make space for a fire safety exit between the portables and the building.
Okay.
And in doing so, that will result in, because we have to, in order to do that, we have gas lines in the area and things like that. It's a pretty involved operation. So we're bringing 2 portables over, and we're moving the existing portables as well, and that's why that cost is $500,000.
Am I on the wrong line? Yeah, so we're going from 2,500 or 2.5 million to 4.2
So there's
million.
additional things in this one.
Okay.
So that's
Sorry.
one component of that one. When this is somewhat technical in accounting terms, but when we have leftover money from the prior year we haven't spent, at the end of the fiscal year, it goes back into our savings account or fund balance. However, when we have earmarked expenditures, but they haven't occurred yet, then that goes back in our savings account. So we had $200,000 of planned expenditures that didn't happen last year, but happened in this year. So that $200,000 we had budgeted went back into our savings account, but because we still had the expenditures planned for this year, we needed to put it back into the budget. So that's where the $200,000 came from. And the last one is the Johnson Controls contract. This is our lighting upgrades for energy efficiency across the district. What happened here is that we had a contract for Johnson Controls. We're still working on it. We had expenditures that happened that Johnson Controls was not paid for due to staff changes and absence of a business administrator for some time in the district. And so we were about 4 or 5 months behind on paying our contractor, Johnson Controls. And so we paid them directly while we waited for the bank to process the paperwork to make sure they got paid and they can continue their work. So this $1 million is to pay Johnson Controls. In the meantime, the paperwork's been processed by the bank and the money is coming back to us now. And we actually received the check yesterday. So this is kind of a net zero impact, but we had to pay them back in January-ish for the work they had performed. Okay. So that's where the 2.5-ish increase comes right there.
Okay.
Our next one, line 153. We ordered some school buses. They have not been delivered yet. They are about 2 years overdue. They'll be delivered hopefully in July. And so we don't need the money this year, so we're taking out $310,000 from the budget to account for that. Line 159. Reduction in $450,000 to account for no capital projects at Golden Spike. So last year we budgeted $450,000 for this current school year for projects that we thought we may need to do that did not materialize. So that's money back in the budget for us. And we talked about one-time costs earlier. Capital projects are an example of one-time costs. They occur once and then we move on. And so that's a good use of our savings account is for one-time costs. Our next one is line 161. We had set aside $1.5 million for the purchase of properties in the event the bond passed to build new school locations. We have not purchased any properties this year, and we won't purchase any properties in this fiscal year because that ends in 15 days. So we're putting that money back in the budget. Line 165. So we talked about the Johnson Controls lighting upgrade. We acquired a loan for 20 years to pay for that lighting upgrade. And this $220,000 reflects the payment on that bank loan. So it wasn't in the budget because we decided to acquire this loan, I think, in October. And so the 165? Does that match up? Well, it's an MBA lease payment. It's in that same budget category. So I just added it to that line for ease of accounting. I'm sorry. Line 186, we are upgrading equipment that is outdated in our school kitchens. It's about $200,000. It wasn't accounted for in the budget, but we've, in consultation with our facilities group, we are repairing these more often than not and spending money on parts. We felt that it was a better investment to upgrade and buy new equipment to have it more reliable for us. And that comes from our school nutrition fund, which is restricted only for that. And this fund is fully self-supporting. So this won't cost the general fund or local tax dollars anything. Our next one is line 198. This is for our foundation. So this is just a budget line holder to account for scholarships that we awarded. Scholarships are kind of a moving target for the foundation. It depends on students applying and the students submitting a quality application so we can award the funds according to the scholarship criteria or by the donor restrictions. And so this is additional money to account for those awarded this year. Well, that concludes the budget changes for the fiscal 25. Do we have any questions here? No? Awesome. Sure.
We talked a few months ago about the cost, and you showed a lot of the cost that the legislature imposes, the additional work that we do. Is there a way, without too much work and effort, to put a dollar number on that? I mean, you're close.
So I would say the best way to do that is is to look at the extra hours that staff have worked. We really haven't increased our admin capacity in our district office. We're probably one of the smaller HR departments for district our size, smaller finance departments, administration. Some districts have many more directors and that attend to things than we do. We wear many hats. You know, Keith here, he's a athletic director, he's an assistant superintendent, he does school fees and school and trusts, all these other things where often have responsibility to be spread across many different areas or personnel. And so it's not a cost to us, but Keith's working a lot of hours, as a lot of the administrators in the district office are, that aren't accounted for and don't result in that. We could show you the number of hours extra that we're working, and you could impute an hourly wage or what it would cost for that.
Yeah, just trying to make visible, and then you multiply that times every district in the state, how much the legislators are costing districts. I mean, you've got to pay those hours,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yeah, whether it comes in an hourly wage or additional time off from work, verification hours you earned, is a cost somewhere.
I just really think they have no idea how much they're costing. If we could make that visible,
I agree.
So they can understand.
Something like school safety might be an easier thing to, those mandates like the panic buttons, school guardians, secure vestibules, those types of things might be a little easier to put a dollar figure to, but still I would love to be able to see, you know, what is this costing us for the hours of work that is required by our administrators as well as the physical things.
The business administrators at the JLC Council are putting together what does it cost? How far does the increases that we get go? And almost every school district has put together essentially it's costing them money. After you incorporate the WPU raise of 4% and all the program cuts and all the unfunded mandates that we receive, we're losing money every year. An example of an unfunded mandate that's unquantifiable is parental leave. We're required to provide 6 weeks of parental leave to an employee who has a child in their family. There's no funding for that whatsoever, but we're required to provide it anyways. Even if an employee has 0 leave available to them, they use all the vacation hours and sick hours, we still have to provide that 6 weeks of leave for them. Oh, is it 3 weeks? I'm sorry, 3 weeks. And in the instance of a teacher, that's sub costs. You know, we're paying a sub every day for that long-term sub to fill that classroom, which then impacts students' learning outcomes because they're not receiving their regular instruction. Okay, are we ready to move into FY26? All right. So this is a document that compares what we received last year from this year. The biggest change in the top line here we see is in the pro staff hours, and that's it's money given to the legislator to pay for increased staff costs. It was in the top line, and they moved it down. So even though we have a $1.5 million decrease in this line at the bottom here, I think you can scroll down a little bit, Keith. It's all right. Right there, $1.054 million decrease. That results. I'm sorry. I'm back on my presentation here. It's not. It might be in the book there. So actually, we have about $3 million more money here because they moved the pro staff out of the top portion of the budget. So we have a $3 million increase to put across various programs. The majority of that goes to special ed. Special education received about $1.2 million increase. So of the $3 million, 1.2 is restricted to special education only. Next one, Keith. So in this slide here, you'll see a lot of zeros. There's a lot of zeros because these are grant programs that the State Board of Education has not notified of us what our allocation is. An example is youth in care. This year, I know we got $560,000-ish for this program. There's 0 allocated because we haven't been notified how much we're going to get yet. So this is the difficulty in forecasting budgets and determining how much local tax dollars we need for a particular year for budget cuts because we don't know yet. Generally, we get this information throughout the year. Sometimes it might be October, November before we know how much we're actually going to get. But we've already committed staff costs to pay for this. So that's why going back to our savings account, that $20 million, that's why we need that there to account for these uncertainties that we have in our funding models from the state board and from the legislator. Next one, Keith. So a bright spot here is our local leeway programs. So I talked about earlier how these are supported by funds from the state legislator on a per pupil basis. And it takes into account a rolling average of property tax collected in these areas from 5 years ago. So this year, we're actually receiving $3 million more in a voted local levy, and we're losing about $500,000. So we have a $2.5 million positive swing in state support in these areas. And that's because we historically have not raised property taxes each year. I think our last raise was we had a raise in 2019 and a raise in 2023. And so this reflects that the state's giving us additional funds to support the loss of revenue or not raising additional revenue in these areas. However, it's not a $1-for-$1. It's literally like $65 per student extra that we get. So it doesn't really offset the loss of revenue that we forego because we didn't raise property taxes. Any questions so far? No. Okay. Our next slide, Keith. So let's talk about our budget changes for fiscal 26. We're proposing a 6.2 increase for employee compensation. Part of that, 2.19%, is for contractual obligations, meaning our steps and lanes that's on our salary schedule that we promise to educators each year if they have a satisfactory evaluation. So that comprises about 2.19% of that. 2% is for the employee negotiated agreements that we engage with our employee associations. The majority of this 2% comes from state funding. It's not supported much by local tax dollars. We're also proposing an additional 2% increase above that for employees as well. And the reason for that is our area is about $1,500 to $2,000 below the starting teacher wages for our surrounding areas. That is Cache, Logan, Weber, Ogden, and Davis. Hard to attract new teachers when we pay less. So we're trying to make up for less increases of the past to be able to attract new teachers. As the older generation of teachers retires, we need to replace them with new teachers, and we need to be competitive for those candidates going forward. And so this is the reason that we're proposing an additional 2% on top of that, to bring our salary schedule to be more competitive with our surrounding districts. Any questions there?
I would just add that it also helps us keep the teachers and
Yes.
other people here so that we don't have to keep moving everybody around.
That's
Can
correct.
I say that out loud? Would it?
Our next line item here is we've been engaging in new school design for our high schools. We approved that process back in March to begin that work. Should we go through with the whole design process and start building, we will incur design costs of about $4.6 million. So there's a line item in there and then we're paying for that out of our capital savings account to account for that additional increase in expenditure for about $4.6 million. That's for architect, that construction manager, and to fill the buildings with what we call furniture, fixtures, and equipment.
That's still an if item.
That's an if item, but we're required to put in the budget to be able to spend that money. And all these here are if items. It's up to the board to approve these items, but this is what the superintendent and I have put together as far as proposed budget for this upcoming year. Next one is $8.8 million in payments for $110 million lease revenue bond. This is funding required to expand our 2 high schools and to build an elementary school. Should the board approve this, we will support this with a property tax raise to support this new revenue. And our last one is I added 10% for increased utility costs. It's about $200,000 for increased utility costs for the coming year. Utility rates are rising. Rocky Mountain Power proposed, I think, 18% increase they wanted over 2 years. The Enbridge Gas Company is much less, and so we need to budget for increased utility costs. And those are the changes for the FY26 budget across all categories compared to our FY25 budget. All other categories not mentioned here, we're keeping them flat, meaning we're not adding additional funds or expenditures to those budget categories. That concludes my proposed budget here. Yes.
So just a question. So if we approved this budget, is that saying that's what we're doing, or is just that if we decide to do that, then the budget is there?
So let me
Right?
let me clarify here.
Thank you.
So the FY26 is a tentative budget because we're proposing a tax raise to pay for these increased expenditures. So this is tentative today. We will hold a truth and taxation hearing in August to formalize a tax raise, if any, that we approve. And at that time, the budget becomes approved. This is just for FY26, the coming school year, it's just tentative. By law, we're required to propose this and put this out there and have it approved this time, along with, later on the agenda, we'll approve tax rates and all those things. But this is just a placeholder till we finalize it in August.
So that would mean that even though if we approve this, there can still be changes up until
Yes.
that.
Yes. So we'll have 2 weeks before that hearing date, we have to publish the budget officially, provide notice in newspapers, websites, and on our building of a budget hearing, where the public will have opportunity to comment, board will have opportunity for discussion, and to finalize at that time.
Sorry, does the board have any more questions, comments?
I have one more slide I'd like to present here.
Okay.
Last one's Keith. Oh, this is small to read, but this talks about, this is what the impact of a bond for a $110 million bond. Initially, the impact is high because we have existing debt. Yes?
$110 million, not bond, but a
lease revenue.
Lease revenue bond.
Yeah, it's a loan from the bank that the bank then sells a loan to investors. It's not a bond like you would, the public would approve. It's different. So this is to support the construction of or expansion of 2 high schools and 1 elementary school. $110 million at 5% interest rate requires about $8.8 million payment annually. And that initially would cost the public about $25 per house per month. Now, over time, the next 5 years, we have significant amounts of debt rolling off our payment schedule. We also have some property tax increment financing agreements rolling off as well. So as we can see in here, as we get to 2030, the average cost per household rolls down to $7.32. Then after that, in 2031, it rolls down to $2.74. So over the life of the bond, it actually will only cost the average household $6.95 per month to support the construction or expansion of 2 high schools and a new elementary school. So what that will mean is that in the future years, as the need goes down, we will lower property tax rates from what we approve now. Yes.
So Neil?
Yes.
It's on there as a bond value at $110 million, but if you add up the numbers, it's like $124 million. So where are we getting the other $14 million?
Interest cost.
Interest.
Yeah, so we pay interest on the bond. And
Well,
so
no, I'm saying we should need to borrow $124 million to make
so these are
48 for the Box Elder, 36 for Bear River, and 40 for New Elementary.
So the designs of these high school expansions are very tentative. This is what, and the numbers that you have there are initial estimates. We're not anywhere near a final design, and we're not anywhere near choosing a final cost as well.
I was just going off the numbers that we've been kind of talking in the different meetings, so I was trying to make them agree.
Plus, we've talked about, and we're approaching the board tonight in a closed session, talk about possibly selling more of our excess land.
Yes.
So we're going to have some more revenue on some of those types of things, and we do have a certain amount of reserve that Neil showed that we are making fairly good money off of that in the PTIF, Public Treasury
Investment Fund.
Investment Fund, thank you. And so that's where that extra 14 million is we estimate.
Yeah, exactly.
And at this point, we talked about this in the work session, but at this point in this proposed budget, that 110 million, that number, at this point, doesn't have to go to those specific projects, right?
No, that's
Come
just,
August, it will.
in August,
or no?
it's for school construction. It's not dedicated to a specific school construction, it's just to construct schools.
So the board would not be committing to that specific plan
Correct.
tonight, right?
Correct.
So it's different than a general obligation bond where it is legally written for the voters of what projects we will use the money for.
Correct.
A lease revenue bond is general construction.
Correct.
Okay.
And any other questions? That concludes my budget presentation.
Okay, thank you so much. That was very detailed, but I so appreciate your graphics because it makes it so much easier for me to understand than this book. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Because I know that took a lot of time to present it that way, but I for one really appreciate it. We need to open now this budget hearing to public comment. The same things that I read before regarding the 3 minutes per person or 6 minutes as a group, those things still apply at this time, and that also any conversation, if a question can or needs to be answered right now, that's good, but anything else will be given in writing. Is there anything else I need to reiterate from that first public comment statement?
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, so,
Would
and when
get the
you
3
come to the podium, we would appreciate you giving us your name and address at that point. Was there anything else that we need at that time besides name and address?
I think we're good.
Okay, all right, so we would open that up. Is there someone that has public comment? No? Okay, yes?
Oh.
Chris Judy, 10910 North, 8400 West in Tremonton. So,
Hang on, Chris, were you able to get that address? No, I just wanted to make sure. You good?
10910 North.
10910 North, 8400 West
400. Gotcha.
in
Sorry, I wasn't
Tremonton.
sure who was I thought Heidi Jo, but she was writing something different.
I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess it's a question, really. So when you say, I'm sorry, I can't read
Keith?
your name because
Or
I don't have
our
my
business
glasses on.
administrator.
I'm a mess.
Mr. Stevens, yes.
I'm trying to understand that you say that the taxes will go down by 2030, the cost of this budget will go down in 2030. Is that what I'm understanding? I guess my point would be the last time we did a bond, it was gonna go down, and it's never gone down, ever. And it's never going to go down. You're never gonna you're not gonna lower my property taxes. That's what I'm saying to you. It's not gonna come down. And so we know that. So I guess I just wish you would be more transparent in the fact that this is gonna cost you $30 more a year excuse me, that's what I meant. But yes, good point. And maybe if you just come to the people and just say that instead of, I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm not a budget person like this. These kind of numbers just blow my mind. But I have to live in a budget. I want you to live in a budget. If I don't have the money, I don't have it. I have to say no to my kids and my grandkids because I don't have the money. This all sounds great and wonderful, but can we afford it? And are we going to put it on the taxpayers' backs? Because that's what you're asking us to do, is bear the burden. I'm happy to take my piece I'm not saying, we have to put our piece in. But I am not willing to, I'm just personally struggling with this number and the increases that keep coming every year. And every time we come back for another tax increase, and we promise it'll come down after, it never happens. That's my point. Thank you.
I'd like to respond and provide some clarity.
I'd love to hear.
So the general obligation bond that was voted in 2009 and was refinanced in 2015, that is a separate tax line item that is calculated only for the supporting of that bond. So essentially, that's the mortgage payment on that bond. Once that bond is paid off, that amount comes off. We can no longer collect it legally. It will come off. There will be a $3.3 million reduction in property taxes across the county because we no longer have to pay that.
And when does that come off?
So half payment in 2029, last half payments in 2030. In 2031, there'll be no more payments for that bond. And that's where this is coming from. The math on this is that you're reducing that by $3.3 million in 2030. Additionally, in 2030, we have some agreements. So we agreed to provide property tax financing to Procter & Gamble. Those agreements expire in 2030 for $3.3 million. So in 2030, we have a $6.6 million swing in revenue that the residents will no longer have to support this.
But we'll have more residents. I guess that's my point. And then we're going to be trying to build more schools and more, and more. It's really, in all reality, it's spent. I guess that's my point.
So any new property that gets developed in this county we get new revenue without having to raise property taxes on existing properties. So your Young Ford down the street and your Heritage Dodge down the street and your new core up the street expansion and all those different things, that's new money coming in that doesn't affect existing residents. So as we see growth, we'll get new money from that growth that doesn't impact existing residents. I don't disagree with that.
Let me maybe ask a question, because this is something that one of the people that came to our previous meeting had asked. Are we, as a board, willing to put that in writing? That will go lower?
I think we legally can, because we will not possibly
Because
be on
this
the
only
board in
happens
2030.
if there's no more new projects. This decrease only happens if there's no more new projects. So I think that's where some of the people are seeing that, yes, it looks good to say it goes down to 6, but that is only the case if there's no new projects. And if we're willing to put it in writing, I think everybody would support it.
I think, Neil, on this budget, this page that we're seeing is speaking specifically to this. We can't control what your home evaluation is first. That's the big jump you've seen, right? We cannot control what future boards will determine is the need for the school district. We can't control the overcrowding of our schools and kids per classroom, and we can't control too many things. So no, Karen, that we cannot.
I know we can't, but I don't know that it's
also
very.
speaking to this specific
This is a
loan.
specific project, and if we don't have any other new projects, then this would be the case. If this is the only project that we did. So just keep that in mind and know that that's how it's laid out.
Debbie Bratner, and my address is 43 South 800 West, Tremont, Utah. So my question is, we have the issue of the overgrowth in Tremont. So we're fighting with Tremont City, and they're saying, we need raises for our policemen, and don't get me wrong, we need that, and I don't have anything against educators getting raises and stuff, because I used to be one of them myself. And we do need more schools and all that, but I'm at a point where I'm on a fixed income because I'm retired, I'm a widow, I don't have much money coming in. Last year, my property taxes went up $500 So where's this money coming from? And if Tremont City wants money here and education wants, the school system wants money here, what do I do? What doesn't get paid? And so that's what I'm looking at. But I also believe that my grandchildren need the 17-to-1 ratio of a teacher, the education. So, it's a rock and a hard spot for them because I want them to have a decent education. And then I want them to have the safety of the police officers and so forth. So, what do we do? That's all I have to say.
Christy Boket, 432 East, 700 North in Tremonton. About 5 years ago, we had a town hall in Tremonton, and it was stated at that town hall that they would not build another school. They would hold things off. I have the paper at home. I read it again today. Until 2029, when the current bond is paid off. I feel like as residents, you're holding us over a barrel. Have you ever sat down with someone? I'm on a fixed income. I'm on Social Security. Have you ever sat down with someone that's older than me? I have. As they've sat there and cried, looking at their tax notice. I did this 2 years ago. I can't pay this. I can't pay this. Why is Tremont doing this to me? Well, why are you doing it to them? I understand we need different schools, but there comes a time when if I can't buy it in my house, you can't have it either. It's called budgeting. And I think somebody here, a lot of people here, need to take a budgeting course. Because there are people, not just older people, but there are young families that are working 3 and 4 jobs. And those poor little kids are suffering because mom and dad are not there because they're paying higher taxes. I realize you have a problem in front of you, but dumping it on us again is not an answer.
Okay, Jamie Poppleton, 155 South, 1550 East. It's a lot of fives, I know, in Tremont. I would have to agree with what everybody here is saying. We have read the paper from the town hall, and there is the proof out there that says there will be no new bonds until this one is paid for. But for us to look at that and believe and have faith in you for saying some of that might not be some of you that are here, but you should know about that bond and what was promised about that bond when it was first done. If you do your due diligence when it comes to some of that, the increases for administration. Tremont is pushing COLA increases. Tremont is pushing 26% increases for administration. I don't get those raises. A lot of people don't get those yearly raises. I have to agree with a lot of people here. We did not do this. Maybe a suggestion, and it might be worth looking into, maybe the school board should go to Brigham City Council office, have a meeting with them. The school board should maybe go to Tremont City Council, have a meeting with them. If they wouldn't have kept passing all these annexations for all these people, we wouldn't be in this problem. So I believe it is city, and county, and board to come up with a solution. And putting it on the taxpayers is not that solution, at least until after the bond in 2030. Because that was a promise that was made, and there is proof out there. Thank you.
Are you sure you don't want to speak? This is your chance. I'm talking to you. You've been looking at me and saying no, not in public, and so I'm not trying to pick on you. I'm just saying I can see you have something to say. So please.
I would rather talk one-on-one, but I want to
A few of us were at a meeting last week in Tremont City. I've told a couple of you this. We're in a meeting in Tremont
Will
City.
you state your
'cause-
name? Sorry.
Oh, Pat Kirby. What's my address? 2898 West, 1000 North, Tremonton. It's funny how represented Tremonton is here. I find that very interesting. We went to a meeting last week in Tremont because they really are developing. I had the opportunity to talk to a few people. They wouldn't meet like this, which I wish they would have. So they had us all in little groups. And Jamie and Chrissy are very involved in this. I'm not. I'm trying to not be involved because I don't want to be. But when this all came up to my attention, I'm like, everybody's got a hand in our pocket. And I appreciate that. I sell real estate. I do property management. So I'm watching generations of people choosing to feed their children or put food on the table or pay their rent. Mortgages can't be paid. We're not like 07, 08 where we're crashing. We're not. People can't afford homes. They can't afford, I was talking to somebody, they said that between their insurance, which I know you have no control over, and their taxes, their mortgage payment goes up $100 a year. That's $100 more on them. And with property management, and I do own more than a couple houses, but when my property taxes go up, and you've explained it a few times, when we don't live there, we're 100% taxed. When I'm 100% taxed, who's that getting passed to? It's getting passed to my tenants, you guys. I gotta pay my bills. So I don't know anything about the promise that was made. I remember when the bond went through. I just think a suggestion that I had, and I think you brought it up in the planning meeting, you guys need to talk to county, you need to talk to cities. I was gonna tell you, I was in the meeting last week and one lady, she was so emotional. She's like, what about the schools? I mean, her whole heart was about the schools. And they're like, well, don't talk to us about that. You need to talk to the school board. And I'm going, so I asked, why was the school board? You guys didn't know about the meeting. Nobody's talking to each other. So that's where I think it needs to start. I think there needs to be a hold. I know some people in the schools, some pretty substantial people. I've made some phone calls to ask their opinion. They think this is a great idea. I mean, they feel like I understand on the inside, you feel like something has to happen. And I appreciate that. The schools are growing. My children went to school here. My grandchildren are in North Park with all the portables. I mean, I get it. But you guys, we're strapped. Everybody's strapped. So my suggestion would be put a hold, $110 million going on a budget tonight. That's a slap in the face to us because that, as we're sitting here, we're going, well, that's passing. It's in your budget. You've just approved it. I don't know if you motioned to approve it or not, but you've just approved a budget that's got it in there. So that tells us this is pretty much done behind closed doors and we just have to accept it. Anyway, please call me. I will call you. I will help, but I'm always an advocate for the poor. Always an advocate for the poor. Anybody who knows me knows that, and it's because I'd rather see people live. Sorry, I'll shut up. I'm sure I'm over my time. But I look at these people who are working 3 jobs to pay the bill. You can't do it, guys. Anyway.
All right, anyone else? All right, we are going to move on to, oh, yeah, sorry.
Hi, my name is Anna Marie Hall. I live here in Brigham City, 473 West, 990 South, Brigham City, Utah, 84302. My social security number is, sorry. I showed up late, sorry, I was at baseball, so this is why I look like I've been in a windstorm. Okay, my parents live in Collinston. I played water polo with Steve Brantner, that's his mom right there. My good buddy Corey Holmgren, his dad is Lyle Holmgren. Corey passed away. He's your mayor. I would suggest if you guys have a bone to pick, Lyle is the man and he is very understanding if you talk to him. But I would talk to him again. I live in Lakeview boundaries. Our school was built in 1962, before a man was put on the moon. If there was a major event or an earthquake, my children would die. They would be dead. I understand the fixed income. My parents sit on fixed income. I'm a stay-at-home mom. My husband works. I understand where people are impacted. But if we put a hold on it, my kids will not see any benefit. They will not see any benefit from from this. And I've been in meetings with the community council. I've been in the meetings with a lot of people looking at budgets and opportunities. And I know I might be the outlier here. And I understand and that's the thing in Box Elder County, is we have the rural, and we're still rural, but you know what I mean. And so we have a lot of different options and different things, and people that are pulling at us different ways. And I think we can work together. I think we can find a compromise. I wasn't here for the first part, but I'm sure that's public information if it's on the budget, or but I feel like we can work together with the city. I feel like we can work together with the county, but our children are the beneficiaries of this education, and they are entitled to a safe and good education with educators that are paid according to what they deserve. We are entitled to that. We pay our taxes for that. Please don't forget, as we sit here and go back, that our children, I have 4 children that will be in the public school system in the fall. So I understand, I have skin in the game. I send them to Lakeview every day, worried that something could happen. That if there's a shooting at Lakeview, there's no protection there. They're just in. And I just want you guys to know, I know I'm out of time, but remember the kids. We need to take action. We need to take action as quickly as we can, because our kids deserve it, and they are not getting any younger. Thank you.
All right, we need a motion to close the hearing unless there are any other comments to be made. Okay, we need
Make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Could I make one comment to the public comments? On June 25th at 8 a.m. in this building, we've invited all of the city leaders from Box Elder County and the county commissioners to come to a meeting in the morning and discuss, trying to get all on the same page and trying to, we've heard that. We had a meeting 10 days ago on June 2nd on a Monday night, where we invited a group of community people to come together, and that was one of their points we'd like to make. So we are trying to be a little bit more balanced with what's going on with the cities and county.
Can I mention, at that meeting was the Tremonton City Planner was present, and a Tremonton City Council member and a county commissioner were all at that meeting on Monday the 2nd.
Well, if we have room, it's over in those rooms there. You could be in the back, I suppose, listening. It's going to be a board meeting, so yes, it has to be open. 8. I will tell you this is kind of a planning meeting to see how we can start to mesh and make sure we can, meet quarterly, something like that. And so a lot of it is just planning for the future and how we're going to, go forward with this group of people. And my hope is to see that it gets rotated. Maybe Tremont City hosts it in another 3 months, and Brigham City, the next 3 months. And I kind of have a rough vision, but I don't want to be the one that directs the whole vision. I want the people at the table who are leaders of those communities to help develop and make that vision kind of a unified one.
Also to mention, our city mayors, Brigham City and Tremonton City, every July there's a longer work session, and our city mayors have been invited to those, and city planners. Last year, I know Tremonton City Planner came and presented the idea that we go in financially to build a Tremont City Rec Center. So this idea of collaborating with city leaders is not a new one. We see room for improvement, right, to make those meetings happen more often, but we have reached out on at least on a yearly basis to those city leaders.
Well, right now we've sent out an RSVP and they have been sending them back. So this is really the first big meeting like that. In those work session meetings, yes, they did come last year. So it's an open board meeting, so we'll have minutes and it'll be probably videotaped just like this.
It will be recorded.
Recorded. So yes. No, that was more of just an advisory committee meeting. I don't think you didn't record that. Yes, you did.
June 2nd?
Yes.
That's what I wanted to add. June 2nd is
Yeah.
recorded.
Thank you. It is.
On YouTube for your entertainment.
She's speaking about last July's work session.
So work sessions I've never recorded.
Yeah.
There's an audio.
Sorry. You're talking? In the July, no, we didn't have that one.
Did you say that there was an audio of that one?
Last July, there should have been an audio recording of your work session. I can get those pushed out. I'm going backwards by year, so I'm going to have all of 2025 done. I'm going to start in December 2024 and work back. But I do that in my spare time. After work and other things.
So those are found on the web page, right, Robert?
Yeah.
And
our YouTube channel.
under the board.
Under the board.
Heading, if you click on the BESD.net, hit the board, and then you can, okay?
I just want to make clear that no decision that the board makes or is discussed as a board, nothing is private. Everything's in public. There's nothing that is done behind and decisions made behind closed door. It's closed sessions.
Personnel and property.
But maybe we shouldn't get into that now. Why you'd like to hear those, but the point is you can hear them, right? It's nothing. No decision is made behind closed doors, trying to get at the public and be underhanded. That's why this participation is so needed, and it's good to ask, so how do I find those things? Because it's not always easy, but it's not made difficult for a reason. It's a lot of information for a school district to store. So when you talk about trying to hide things, that's not the case. And so, anyway. Thank you, Robert.
Board President Summers.
Right.
So on the website, BESD, Box Elder School District, BESD.net. If you just Google Box Elder School District, it's either ours or Montana's. Just stay here in Utah. But right up here, there are 3 tabs: safety protocols, the school board, and then all the bond that we did last year. But on the school board, if you click it, then you end up with these tabs. And on the left side here, we have what we call board meeting recordings. So you could click there, and here's what the YouTube channel is that Mr. Gordon just talked about. You could click there as well. But anyway, all of the information, if you want to go back, it's a lot of fun. But there's information here for minutes, etc., all the things that have been gone in a public meeting.
Do you record every work session, or is it just these general meetings?
The BA records the work sessions,
So the
right?
previous work sessions are recorded just audio only, not video. But the one we did June 2nd was video.
That one was, but any other work session that's before, where did we find those audio recordings?
They're in our board minutes on the same webpage.
Okay, can I borrow your mic? Let me repeat. We've never been asked to publicly post those. So they're all recorded and they're all stored. They're completely backed up and safe. So I am going back in time at the request of Superintendent Carlson as an additional thing when I have time to get those posted. So I started in April. I've got May's, I've got April's, got March, got February, got January, and I'm gonna get the rest. But I'll hit 2024, I'll try to get those done, then I'll hit 2023, but I'm gonna go back in time. Because those are the most relevant ones that you want anyway. You really don't want the 2021, what was going on then, right?
But there should be typed minutes on there for the audio recordings.
So the board minutes, if you scroll down, once you click on that, then it just goes, starting with today's. I mean, it eventually will be uploaded, and it's just gonna go down.
Do I need to link them here as well? Because I'm gonna put them on our YouTube channel, but.
Could you just put a link to the YouTube channel on there? Just put a big red button.
That's at the top.
Oh.
That's already there.
It says push here.
And there's playlists like YouTube does, work session playlist, board playlist. But Marcy's asked me to add the work sessions to the board playlist as well. So they'll be in both places. It's fun.
And
When
by
you're
the way,
gardening on a
they're
Saturday afternoon. Just 'cause we're-
more further away to most recent, so.
Now, now we are at G2 on our agenda, the approval of the preliminary budget.
Okay, now I have a question. If I just want to reiterate, the 110 million in there, it has to be in there for us to have options to do anything. Correct?
Yes.
It doesn't mean it will be 110 million, doesn't mean it could be, we'll decide that in the next few months. But if we don't have anything in there, we can do nothing.
We can't construct new school buildings. We don't have enough savings to be able to do that and service our existing facility needs. I want to point out that the action on the next year's budget today is tentative, pending a truth and taxation hearing in August.
Yes.
So this is just a procedural step till we get to August, because it's required by law to do this.
But we couldn't put it on hold and add it in August. It has to be on this budget now because it's due by June 30th.
Yes, we have to set tentative tax rates.
Okay.
It's essentially require, for timing purposes, 45-day tentative budget till we hold those hearings in August.
Okay.
We ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I make the motion to approve the revised 2024-25 budget and tentative budget as presented for the 2025-26 fiscal year, pending truth and taxation proceedings along with certified tax rates.
I second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second, and now let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay.
And I am going to read a statement. I won't be as near as long as Neil's. Last November, the people of this community were asked a direct question from the school district. Do you support a $20 a month property tax increase for facility upgrades and projects? Nearly 70% said no. That was not a close call. That was a clear, resounding message of rejection by the vast majority voice of the people. Now, just a few months later, I'm disappointed to see a proposed school district budget that forces a tax increase of up to $33 a month on the average homeowner, even higher than what the people rejected. That's not only disrespectful to the citizens and taxpayers, I believe it's unethical and very disingenuous. I believe this violates both the trust of our constituents and the principles of our U.S. Constitution, particularly the right to taxation only through representation. If we ignore the will of the people now, how can we ever expect them to trust us with future bonds or proposals? When we ask the people to decide, and they do, we should be bound morally, if not legally, to honor their voice. Some argue, but the needs still remain, and people just need to be educated about what is best for their children. However, I have seen no data proving that moving ninth graders to the high school will improve academics, mental health, or student safety. Most schools in Utah still follow a 10 to 12 grade model. There is no evidence that this costly change will yield better outcomes. There seems to be a need for a new elementary school in Tremonton, but that can be done for far less than what is being proposed. If the district has another plan, we should take it back to the people and let them vote on the new plan. That is how representative government works. This nation was built on the principle that the power resides with the people. Abraham Lincoln reminded us we are a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If elected bodies override the people's voice, we are not leading, we are betraying their trust. I have heard from farmers, young families, business owners, seniors fixed on incomes. They cannot afford $400 more a year in property taxes. An elderly woman told me she had to choose this past winter between turning on her heat or buying groceries. A young couple told me they're giving up on the dream of homeownership because of rising taxes and the cost of owning a home. Parents have told me we actually voted for the bond to fix the earthquake risks in the schools because we were told that the district's priority was student safety. Now it seems that the priority has changed to move ninth graders to the high school and build a $10 million field house. We feel deceived. One person said, "Here's what it feels like. Last fall, the school district came to our front doors and politely asked for $20 a month. The people said no. Now it feels like the school district is sneaking in the back door, going through our wallets, and forcefully taking out even more. That's not taxation by representation. That's legalized plunder while hiding behind the skirt of big government," unquote. We've talked tonight about the hardship that fees are placing on family, and this proposed tax increase will be significantly harder on families. Therefore, my no vote on the proposed 24-25 school budget, Box Elder School District budget, my no vote is of the proposed 24-25 Box Elder School District budget in its current form. I was not elected to ignore the will of the people and pridefully think I know more than they do and how they should spend their hard-earned money and what is better for their children and grandchildren. I was elected to represent them, and I will continue to do just that. The people have spoken, and I will stand with them. I will cast my vote to reflect the clear voice and the choice of the people, and I am so grateful for the opportunity to continue to represent them.
We are on G3, approval of the 24-25 tax rates. Presenter Neil Stevens.
Can you display the recommendation? Zoom in if we could here. So as part of the... I apologize. As part of the budget process, we're required to pass approved tax rates to support this budget. Now, the numbers here presented are just tentative until the truth and taxation hearings are completed and the board approves those rates at that time. So our tentative rates will increase. However, the rate of the increases is due mostly to the capital raise. Capital raise will go up about 12 points. Additionally, the basic rate is gone up from 0.00406 to 0.00408, and that is by the will of the legislator. They set that rate. That is part of the equalization formula. So that went up a little bit there. That will generate about $1 million more. Our board rate is proposed to go from 00210 to 00245 to generate approximately $1.5 million more. And that will support the proposed raises for increased staff compensation, the 2% increase that we proposed. The vote will go from 00472 to 00540. That will raise approximately additional another $800,000, also to support increased staff costs. Last, the bond rate is not changing. Well, the bond rate's going down slightly, but it reflects the same revenue amount coming in. And lastly, the charter rate. That rate is set by the state as well to collect for the number of students in charter schools in our district boundaries. So these are the proposed certified tax rates for FY25. These will be ratified at Truth and Taxation in the August hearing.
Thank you, Neil. Is there any discussion, any questions on that? All right. Then we need a motion.
I move to accept the estimated certified tax rates for the 2025 tax year at a total tentative rate of 0.007228 pending truth and taxation proceedings as presented by administration, and the approved certified rate once it's certified by the Box Elder County Assessor's Office. Get it right.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. With a motion and a second, let's vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right. Is that noted?
Yes.
Okay. The approval of internal and independent auditors. Mr. Stevens again.
Yes. Each year we are required, and can you just play the motion for us, please? Each year we're required to appoint a internal auditor. Because our school district has at least 10,000 students, by state law we're required to reappoint one. We are at 12,000 students. Rod Cook is our internal auditor. We held an audit committee meeting today, and he presented his findings, which were no material findings for this past school year. And also we are required to appoint our external auditor, who does the annual financial and programmatic audits for our district, and those audits are presented to the board in October, or actually probably November actually. So this motion is just a request that we approve the appointment of those two individuals to continue our audit work.
Okay, I make a motion that the board appoint Rodney Cook as the internal auditor for the 2025-26 school year, and engage Squire and Company CPAs as the independent auditor for the 2024-25 fiscal year audit.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, having a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We are to the portion of our meeting for the Municipal Building Authority, and we need a motion to enter into that meeting.
So moved.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Stevens. Before you start, I came today to the district office, and Neil had a sign on his door that said focus time, please knock. And I wondered if maybe if I knocked you might not answer. But you did, and I appreciate it, and I'm sorry I interrupted. I know you had a lot on your plate.
Not a problem. So portion of our debt payments are related to the Fielding School, and we at the time took out a bank loan of sorts called a lease revenue bond. And those, we received a discounted tax rate that is subsidized by the IRS. The IRS actually will write us a check back for $10,000 a year to lower the rate on these qualified bonds that were issued. And in order to do so, we need to approve the budget for those, to support those bonds each year. And this is what this motion is for, is to approve the budget for the payment of the bond proceedings each year. And so presented here is the estimated revenue for the bond, and that comes from our district local funds and any fees associated with that, and it also provides the expenditures, which are for the payment of the bond as well. So this motion is to ask approval and setting a budget for the MBA bond for $348,000 in revenue and $325,000 in expenditures.
If I might add, Neil, and maybe you can help correct me, but the Municipal Building Authority Board is actually this board.
Correct.
And that's why we had to move into this meeting, so that the Municipal Building Authority Board could make an action outside of the Box Elder School District Board.
This is a requirement imposed by the IRS to receive this type of funding or incentives. We create a board as a separate entity. The board members are the legal board members here of this separate entity to approve this motion.
Any further discussion, questions?
I make,
Yep.
I make the motion to accept the current, wait, no. Recommend, do I read pursuant to section 3.1? I make a motion, okay. Pursuant to section 3.01, that's PF, that certain master lease agreement dated June 1st, 2011 between the Municipal Building Authority of Box Elder School District, the lessor, and Box Elder School District, the lessee. I make the motion to accept the lease renewal commencing July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025 and adopt the budget as presented.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, so we'll have a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion passes. Now we need a motion to exit the Municipal Building Authority's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. And any opposed? Okay, thank you. We are to item G6 for contributions for members of contributory retirement system. Contributory. Gosh.
Again, this item is at the behest of the IRS. So we have 3 different retirement systems that employees participate in, depending on when they are hired. And the oldest one is a non-contributory system under the Pension Guarantee Act. And so by law, we have to ratify that we will pick up the employees' contributions and pay for them on their behalf. We have 1 employee remaining in this pool. And so next year, we won't have to do the same thing. So what this is allowing us to do is ratify the rate in which we need to collect this year to pick up that contribution.
When you say next year we won't have to apply this rate, is that assuming retirement?
The person is retiring this year.
Okay.
And so per their contract, they have, I believe, 1 more payment left in next fiscal year.
I move that the Box Elder School District approve the contributory retirement rates for 25-26 fiscal year for both Tier 1 and Tier 2 employees and pick up rates for the contributory retirement plan employee.
We need a second?
I second that.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We need a motion to go into a closed session to discuss collective bargaining and sale or lease of real property.
I move into closed session to discuss collective bargaining and sale or lease of real property.
I second.
And we need a roll call vote for this, so Stephanie?
Stephanie DePhillips, yes.
Karen Cronin, yes.
Julie Taylor, yes.
Tiffany Summers, yes.
Danielle Wright, yes.
Brian Smith, yes.
Wade Hyde, yes.
Okay. There we go.
We'll go into
Hello? This is a really long board meeting. Do they go long like this very often? I know. Hello? This is a really long board meeting. Do they go long like this very often? I can hear myself on the board meeting. I know. This is a really long like this. Yeah. Okay. Are we ready? We're not ready to go. You're just getting it ready. Hi, Megan. We ready? We're not ready to go. You're just getting it ready. It's kind of freaky because I can hear myself while I'm watching the board meeting. I can hear myself talk. I'm missing the stargazing tonight because I can hear myself while I'm watching the board meeting. I can hear myself. Yep, I just did. I realized that was a problem. Yeah. Okay. So that just means when I ask a question, I need to wait a little bit. Oh. Okay. Oh, yeah, and I have the. Can you see my slide? Okay. I can move my video. That? Right. Pretty slick, huh? Yes. It just shows me that your video and your sound are off. Okay. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna try turning on a light behind me so that it's not so dark. talking head. I can hear you, Robert. Would you like me to talk loud like this while I'm presenting? I can do that. Yeah, I pulled up the agenda to make sure I haven't missed this. Yeah. Awesome. That would be great. I am. I'm at Bryce Canyon at the Utah Prevention Coalition conference. That's why I'm out of town. I'm glad we could do it. Two birds with one stone. Yeah, this is great. I'm glad we could do this. Yes. And I think if they use their microphones, that'll project enough. Hello. I can't hear you because you're muted. Okay. I can see you now, yes. It's all good. Breakfast is at 7:30. It's fine.
The reality is, why do you want that on? You're testing, but are we broadcasting to the world?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, nobody cares.
Well, maybe the 20 people that are online care. And is this being recorded for people to hear? I'm not talking.
That's my biggest thing. That's why the reason I'm smiling is because it is working. Your video and your audio are coming through to YouTube from Keith's computer. It's great. You can mute it if you like. Not that one, this one.
Now that we've got this figured out, I might as well do it because I think that's awesome. This is it. I'm willing. It's fine. Oh no, mine's fast. Mine's fast. Hopefully they won't have any questions and we'll be done. Say that again. Oh, I'm at Bryce Canyon. At Ruby's.
We're good to just go? Okay.
Well, we'll have to. Just for the record, we took a vote in closed session to come out of closed session, so if anybody questions it, yes. So.
Just a suggestion, given the late hour, are there some items on the agenda we could postpone?
I don't know the answer.
I think we can get through the next 2 or 3 really quick. I really do.
Okay, G9, approval of the LEA mental health screening. Sorry. It was under some writing, some notes I had taken. G8, tentative ratification of negotiated agreement.
I move that the Board of Education ratify the tentative negotiated agreement reached between the Box Elder School District and the Box Elder Administrative Association, the Box Elder Educator Association, and the Box Elder Educational Support Professionals for the 2025-2026 school year.
I second that.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay,
All right. I recommend that the board approves the school-based mental health screening grant participation.
you just
Any
need the
questions?
permission of the grant to just participate, is that?
Yes.
The permission of the board to participate in the grant.
In the
I'm s-
grant,
okay.
yep.
I move the board approve the school-based mental health screening grant participation.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion
Okay.
passes.
My next recommendation is that Century Elementary, Discovery, Fielding, Garland, Golden Spike, Lakeview, McKinley, North Park, and Bear River High School are designated closed for the upcoming school year. And if you look down, you can see all the capacities and schools to watch.
We have 2 elementary schools 3% away from all elementary schools being closed.
Besides the western schools, yes.
Do we have a motion?
Motion to accept her recommendation.
I second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Can I ask a quick question, Megan? Down at the bottom, there's a recommendation that be changed to the state median, 10% less than versus 10% more. Is that any implications in this, or is that something separate?
It's just for those median enrollments to avoid overcrowding. So basically, right now, like the capacity that we're at is above. And yeah, so the recommendation is trying to use those state numbers actually to do 10% less. But I actually, in this upcoming school year, I have some ideas on changing kind of how we do open enrollment, but yeah.
So we don't need to do that motion now? Okay.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, we voted already, right?
We have voted on the school fees.
Okay, so G11 is finished, and we move to G12, approval of the 2025-26 TSSA plans. Keith and Heidi Jo?
Yeah, so Keith and I propose that you review. I think most of you had selected plans to look at, reviewed those, and that you guys approved them. Obviously, we had a little bit of a change earlier this year to the TSSA plan funding, which we discussed in detail tonight how that will be used. But overall, the plans are looking really good, and the addition of the TSI designation goal is beneficial to the schools.
I move that the Box Elder School District Board of Education approve the teacher student success plans for the schools of Box Elder School District for the 2025-26 school year.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Information items. The data review for instruction in health from
So can I maybe just speak to that really quick? Rachel Lott is joining us via WebEx. I have her ready to start. Sorry. I have Rachel ready to join us. She's in a hotel in Bryce Canyon, ready for a conference. But the reason why I've asked her to do this is per our sex education law that we have to follow. Every 2 years, we're required to show you kind of trends of a variety of health concerns. And so she's going to give us kind of a summary of what the trends are in a variety of settings. It's not very long, but it is required that every 2 years we do this. And so she's going to take some time, and I just wanted to do a little preface there.
Am I up? Okay. Hello from Bryce Canyon, here for a Utah Prevention Coalition Summit. So, okay, I'm going to do a brief data review from data that we received from the Board of Education. And here we go. The first topic is teen pregnancy. The data that I had grouped 15 to 19-year-olds together because statistically any birth from a teenager is considered riskier for lifelong accomplishment. Not the rule, but the generality. And you can see that since 2018, in Utah, we've gone down from 13.1 per 1,000 young ladies to 8.2 in 2022. And I'm hoping that trend continues because it's pretty consistent. Okay. Whoops. Sorry. That was really fast. Sorry about that. Okay. This is just kind of the same thing. It's talking about birth rate. The one that I found really encouraging was this number 6, where it says that Utah mothers age 15 to 17, 22, the numbers were only 3 per 1,000, with consistent decreases from 18.2 per 1,000 in 2008. So I think we're making headway in teen pregnancy. Any questions on that? We're going to head into STDs next. I'm the lucky one. I get to talk about all this. I'm an NP. Yes. Everybody gets those confused. But anyway, where's first? So the N comes first. So these just show the Utah state STD rates per 100,000 people. And you can see that statewide, they're consistently going up, except for 21 to 22 went down a little bit. So I'm curious to see the next couple of years of data, see if we're trending down still or if that was just a fluke. So kids aren't getting pregnant, but all people are still getting STDs. Now the younger kids and the people in our health district actually have lower statistics, so that's good news. The 15 to 19-year-old rates are going down for chlamydia, gonorrhea, and up for syphilis, but the rates for syphilis are smaller overall. So we'll keep going. All right, I gotta get this little arrow to come up. Okay. Our third awesome topic is sexual abuse among children. These are stats from DCFS for last fiscal year, 2024. Now they don't necessarily put numbers. I tried in the bottom chart, I tried to put some actual numbers of children affected by this. They just use percentages in their yearly report. So of all the abuse and neglect the children in Utah have experienced, 13.9% of that was sexual abuse. The numbers kind of went up and now they're coming back down. I don't know if that's statistically significant or not, but one is too many, in my opinion.
Can I ask, what does DVRCA mean?
Oh, yes. Domestic violence related child abuse. I looked it up because I had the same question. Any other questions on that? Okay. I looked in the educator's handbook at all the sexually related incidents from last year. And these are the numbers that I found. The unauthorized use of electronic devices, the biggest one of those was searching inappropriate search terms on school computers and showing others inappropriate pictures on phones. So those are the two main ones from that. Any questions here? This is Box Elder School District. Amongst the students. Okay. And then I just made a list of things that we're doing to try and mitigate these numbers. I mean, we have health classes, 1 and 2, the Botden curriculum. We've really encouraged kids to use Safe UT. And we have the gaggle system where we get information when kids are sending, when certain language gets flagged on things that they're sending to each other in Google at school. We do mental health screeners. They have access to me and the school nurses. They have access to counselors and LCSWs who also do tier 2 small groups. We have a positive messaging campaign on Facebook and Instagram. And we all do the human trafficking and sexual abuse training at the beginning of the year, and students do an age-appropriate one too. We have started Check and Connect mentors. We'd really like to find a way to fund more of those. We've been doing the Strengthening Families program, 10 to 14. This last year we ran 3 sessions of 7 weeks of those and had really good participation. And then we partner with a lot of community resources and refer to different things depending on the need. So short and sweet. Any questions?
Rachel, thank you so much for preparing this for us.
You're welcome.
And although it is required every other year, we can bring whatever you would like, be interested in. We have the SHARP survey data that will come up in the fall. We'll have those results, and so we'll do a report on that then as well. So, thank you, Rachel.
Yes. Thank you, Rachel. You're welcome. Have a great night.
Okay.
H2 is our monthly financial report. Neil?
I'll be brief here. There really is no change from last month. We're on target for budgets. We're on target for revenue. I predict we'll probably have a several $1 million surplus in maintenance operations at the end of the fiscal year. It's hard to know because of the year-end process closed, but based on trend data, we should roll over $7 million based on our average expenditures per month. Any questions?
You said that was in maintenance and operations, right?
That's right. Fund 10.
Okay.
We still have 2 more payments from the state. We average about $7 million a month from the state for the supported programs. So we'll see about an additional $14 million. Additionally, not reflected here is we receive a county tax payment every month. We're notified of the deposit the following 5 days. So this is as of the end of May. However, this month we received a deposit of approximately $3 million in local property tax funds. So we're in a very healthy spot, revenue versus expenses this year.
Okay, all right. Do we have any questions or discussion for Neil? We good? I always have questions for Neil, but for tonight, I've asked enough.
Okay.
Okay, board committee reports. Does anyone have a committee report from this past month? Okay, we'll move to our policy review.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Did we finalize who's going to the Boys and Girls Club dinner?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
They
Kind of.
told Karen, and she's gonna tell, but there's room for you.
Well, Janelle reached out to me and asked if it had been finalized. Also, I don't need room because she sent me a message asking me to bring a guest, so
Okay.
maybe we should send. Anyway, that's why I brought it up. Sorry.
So there's probably still room for 2 more if anybody decides last minute, but we need to RSVP, so.
Neil? Super fun time? Robert?
Maybe Karina is available, or Catherine. We can check with them, and they could bring their spouse. We'll check with them.
Say what? Hey, could you pay attention?
Or Stephanie
only-
could bring her spouse.
Yeah.
But that's,
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that's
then
great.
we'd still have
It's a nice
2 more
meal.
after.
And mechanical bull. Okay. So are we good with that then? Okay. Policy review.
I'd like to move that we approve the policies to delete policies with no changes.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to the first reading.
I move we approve all policies on first reading.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, moving on to policies in second reading.
I second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Consent items.
I move we approve the consent items listed.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Upcoming events. Oh, suggestions for future board meeting. We talked about this in work session, so yeah, would you just email the group or superintendent or myself anything you have that you're interested in having at that meeting beyond what's already been scheduled, yeah, proposed. Upcoming events, the tour of the district office.
That's just if you want to. I'll be here 1:30 on that day, half an hour before, and we can just show you what movement we've made.
All right.
Sorry, can I just have a point of clarification? Why do we skip all of the J things? Like, I know we just did the consent items. What does that mean?
Those are the consent items.
For
The
what?
J things are consent items. So if you click, like prior to board meeting, if you click on the blue links, it'll take you to like the minutes or the check summary of May. So what I do is I just look over those before we come to board meeting, and then if I have questions to ask during that time, that's when you would ask a question. But if there are no questions, then we just approve them.
And we're approving them for what?
Whatever that's at.
Just approving the minutes or those claims that were made.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
There's always different consent items.
But you
So
always have the right as a board member to say, hey, I'd like to pull out J3 and ask questions about whatever personnel changes and talk about that separately.
Oh.
This is just something that's pretty standard stuff, so it's put in there to just,
So we did approve them,
yes.
but if you had questions, you'd want to bring up the questions before you approve them.
So if somebody had a field trip or something and you had questions about it, this is the time we talk about that.
So we just approve in a lump
Okay.
altogether
Okay,
instead
well.
of individually.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I just approved.
as you look over those, if you have questions, I'm sure the superintendent would be happy to go over those. It's that learning curve. Okay, upcoming events, the tour of the district office, the board work session on July 9th, beginning at 2 o'clock. Those are the things that have already the leadership team has come up with for that meeting, C1, C1A, C2. And
So for
then-
upcoming events, are we gonna put that, make an, like the breakfast meeting, it's on there to discuss, but
Yeah.
send that out as an
We'll
open
s-
meeting?
I'll send that. Yeah, we're gonna have to post that as an open meeting and all
But
that.
if that's on June 25th, that's obviously prior to our July work session,
Yeah.
so,
But that's just to discuss the
agenda.
breakfast
Okay.
meeting, just
Okay.
to, to have that as,
okay.
see what we felt about it.
And discuss proposal to add on to 2 high schools. Is there more discussion that needs to happen? That
Well, I
was-
don't know. It's.
I thought that was a board work session like to discuss that at the board work session.
That is,
Okay.
right.
So why is the breakfast meeting under a discussion for the
Just to be
board
able to
work
talk
session?
about it at the work session,
Oh,
too.
afterward, like
Yeah,
it,
just to
okay.
debrief, I guess.
Like, I thought that was already a done deal.
We should've-
I get what you're saying. I'm
should've
so
debriefed.
sorry. Okay. We have nothing with the board handbook, and seeing
I
that
think we need to add that sunrise graduation is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock.
Thank you.
And it's in the gym, not the auditorium like it usually is.
At Box Elder High School, right?
Box Elder High School,
Okay.
so,
And what time are we supposed to be there?
it starts at 6.
Probably just 10.
5:30?
10. You'd be really safe at 5:30.
5:45?
want a really good close parking spot.
Maybe bring a light jacket, there is air conditioning.
He said, bring a light jacket, there is air conditioning.
It can be 5:30 to 4, 5:45. A light would be safe.
Oh, my daughter said it was really hot.
Seeing that we have completed everything on our agenda, we don't have to move, we are adjourned.
Okay.
I thought I said completed. Did I say completed?